They threw her into the ravine like garbage, beaten, starving, accused of crimes she didn't commit. The entire Iron Ridge pack watched as their weakest member was sentenced to die in the frozen wilderness. But when Alina Crow smiled at her executioners, something shifted in the air. That smile wasn't surrender. It was a promise. What happened next would shatter kingdoms, expose conspiracies, and prove that the girl they called worthless was destined to become the most powerful force the Wolf clans had ever seen. If you want to see how a broken outcast becomes a legendary queen, stay with me until the end. And don't forget to hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. Let's begin. The wind screamed through the skeletal trees of the northern frontier like a wolf mourning its dead. Snow fell in thick curtains, blanketing the Iron Ridge territory in brutal, unforgiving white. It was the kind of cold that bit through flesh and gnawed at bone, the kind that killed slowly if the wolves didn't get you first. Alina Crow knelt in that snow, her wrists bound behind her back with iron chains that burned against her skin. Blood dripped from her split lip onto the pristine white ground, each drop a small crimson flower blooming in the frost. Around her stood the wolves of Iron Ridge pack, her pack, or what used to be her pack, their eyes cold and merciless as they formed a circle of judgment. She had always been the weakest among them, the runt, the girl who couldn't shift, couldn't fight, couldn't even feel the wolf that supposedly slept inside every member of the pack. For 23 years she had endured their mockery, their casual cruelty, their daily reminders that she was less than nothing. But she had never imagined it would end like this. Alina Crow! The voice cut through the howling wind like a blade. Alpha Roderick Hale stepped forward, his massive frame casting a shadow over her kneeling form. He was a mountain of a man, broad-shouldered and scarred, with eyes the color of winter steel. You stand accused of theft and betrayal. You stole medicine meant for the pack's children. You sold our secrets to the eastern clans. You are a traitor and a thief. Alina raised her head, her dark hair whipping around her face. Her green eyes, the only beautiful thing about her, people used to say, met his without flinching. I didn't do it, she said. Her voice was hoarse but steady. You know I didn't. A ripple of laughter ran through the assembled wolves. Beta Marcus, Roderick's second-in-command, stepped forward with a sneer twisting his handsome features. Of course you deny it, Marcus said. What else would a worthless Omega say when caught? The evidence is clear, Roderick continued, his voice flat and final. The stolen bottles were found in your quarters. A messenger from the Crimson Fang clan identified you as his contact. You have no defense. Because it was planted. Alina's voice cracked, desperation bleeding through her composure. Someone set me up. The bottles appeared overnight, and I've never even spoken to anyone from Crimson Fang. Liar. The word came from Elena Cross, the pack's healer and one of the few people Alina had considered a friend. The betrayal in Elena's eyes hurt worse than the chains. I vouched for you. I trusted you with access to the medicine stores, and you repaid that trust by stealing from sick children. Elena, please, enough! Roderick's command silenced the gathering. He looked down at Alina with something that might have been pity if he were capable of such an emotion. The sentence for treason is death. But because you are pack-born, I will grant you the mercy of exile instead. You will be taken to the widow's ravine and cast into the wilderness. If you survive the fall, the forest will claim you. If the cold doesn't kill you, the rogues will. Alina's heart hammered against her ribs. The widow's ravine was a death sentence dressed up as mercy, a 100-foot drop into a frozen gorge that even the strongest wolves avoided. No one survived it. No one. You can't do this, she whispered. I'm innocent. The council has spoken, Marcus said, grabbing her arm and hauling her to her feet. His grip was bruising, deliberate. Your weakness shames us. Your crimes condemn you. You are no longer pack. The words hit like physical blows. In wolf culture, being cast out was worse than death. It meant you were nothing, no family, no protection, no identity. You were prey. They dragged her through the snow. Alina didn't fight. What would be the point? She had no wolf to call upon, no strength to resist. She had spent her entire life being powerless, and now that powerlessness would kill her. The journey to Widow's Ravine took less than an hour, but it felt like a lifetime. The pack followed in grim silence, witnesses to her execution, Some looked satisfied, others looked away. None spoke in her defense. When they reached the edge of the ravine, Alina saw the drop and felt her stomach lurch. Jagged rocks jutted up from the gorge like teeth. The river at the bottom was frozen solid, a ribbon of deadly ice. The wind howled up from the depths, carrying with it the whispers of everyone who had died there. "Any last words?" Roderick asked. It was not kindness that prompted the question, just ritual. Alina looked at the gathered pack. She saw Beta Marcus with his cruel smile. She saw Elena with her downcast eyes. She saw the young wolves she had helped teach to read, the elderly ones she had brought food to when they were too weak to hunt. Not one of them met her gaze. And then something inside her shifted. Maybe it was the absolute certainty of death. Maybe it was the bitter recognition that she had spent her whole life trying to earn the love of people who would never give it. Maybe it was just the final breaking of a spirit pushed too far. But Alina Crow smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It wasn't resignation. It was the smile of someone who had just realized they had nothing left to fear, nothing left to lose, and therefore nothing holding them back anymore. "You're making a mistake," she said quietly. "And when you realize it, it will be too late." Marcus laughed. "Threatening us now? That's rich coming from someone who can't even shift." "I'm not threatening you," Alina said, her smile widening. "I'm promising you. The truth always comes out. And when it does, when you finally see what you've done—" She paused, her green eyes glittering with something dark and certain. "I won't be the one begging for mercy." For just a moment, uncertainty flickered across Roderick's face. Then he nodded to Marcus. "Do it." Marcus didn't hesitate. He grabbed Alina by the shoulders and hurled her backward over the edge. The world tilted. Sky and stone switched places. The pack's faces disappeared as Alina fell, plummeting down into the ravine's frozen maw. Wind screamed in her ears. Her stomach lurched into her throat. This was it. This was death. She hit an outcropping 20 feet down, and her ribs cracked with an audible snap. The impact knocked the air from her lungs. She tumbled, rolling down the steep ravine wall, her body bouncing off rocks and ice. Her shoulder struck stone and dislocated with a wet pop. Her head cracked against frozen earth, and blood poured into her eyes. Down, down, down she fell, her body breaking with each impact until finally, mercifully, she hit the bottom. Alina lay in the snow at the base of the ravine, staring up at the narrow strip of gray sky far above. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't feel anything except cold and the distant, fading pulse of her own heart. So this is how it ends, she thought. Alone in the snow, forgotten, worthless. The pack didn't linger. She could hear their footsteps crunching away through the snow above, their voices fading into the wind. They left her without looking back, already forgetting she had ever existed. Darkness crept in at the edges of Alina's vision. Her blood steamed in the frozen air, melting the snow beneath her. She felt her body shutting down, giving up, letting go. And then she heard it. Footsteps. Not above, but here, in the ravine. Heavy boots crunching through snow, coming closer. Alina tried to turn her head, but couldn't. She could only stare upward as a figure stepped into her failing vision. He was tall, impossibly tall, with broad shoulders draped in a black fur cloak. His face was sharp and angular, carved from stone, with eyes like molten gold that seemed to see straight through her. Dark hair fell past his shoulders, and when he moved, there was a deadly grace to him, the predatory stillness of an apex hunter. Power radiated from him like heat from a fire. Even half dead, Alina could feel it pressing against her, overwhelming and ancient. "Well," the man said, his voice a deep rumble that vibrated in her chest. "What do we have here?" He crouched beside her, tilting his head as he examined her broken body. There was no pity in his expression, but no cruelty either, just intense, focused interest. "They threw you away," he observed. "Like garbage." Alina tried to speak, but only blood bubbled from her lips. The man reached out and gently turned her head, studying her face. His golden eyes narrowed, and for a moment, something like shock flickered across his features. "Impossible," he whispered. He leaned closer, so close Alina could feel his breath on her skin. He inhaled deeply, scenting her, and then his entire body went rigid. "No," he said, the words sharp and disbelieving. "No, it can't be." He pulled back, staring at her with an expression caught between wonder and fury. When he spoke again, his voice had dropped to a dangerous growl. "Who did this to you?" Alina's lips moved. "Iron Ridge." The man's eyes flashed gold, and for just an instant Alina saw something massive and terrible behind them, the shadow of a beast far larger than any wolf she'd ever known. "Iron Ridge Pack," he repeated slowly, each word dripping with barely contained rage. "They did this. They threw away their own pack member. They tried to murder—" He stopped abruptly, as if catching himself before revealing too much. Instead, he slid one arm beneath Alina's shoulders and the other under her knees, lifting her as easily as if she weighed nothing. "You're not dying here," he said firmly. "Not today. Not like this." "Why?" Alina managed to gasp out the word, confusion and pain making her dizzy. "Why do you care?" The man looked down at her, and for the first time she saw something soft in those golden eyes. Something almost tender. "Because," he said quietly, "you're mine, and I protect what's mine." Before Alina could ask what he meant, darkness finally claimed her, and she knew nothing more. When consciousness returned, it came in fragments. Warmth, the crackle of a fire, the scent of pine and leather, soft furs beneath her body instead of frozen ground. Alina's eyes fluttered open. She was staring at a ceiling made of dark wood, intricate carvings of wolves and trees running along the beams. This wasn't the ravine. This wasn't anywhere she recognized. She tried to sit up and immediately regretted it as pain lanced through her ribs. "Don't move." The command came from across the room. The man from the ravine sat in a chair by the fire, his golden eyes fixed on her. "You have 3 broken ribs, a dislocated shoulder, a concussion, and more bruises than I can count. You need to rest." "Where am I?" Alina's voice was a rasp. "Somewhere safe." "That's not an answer." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "No, it's not. But it's all you're getting until you're strong enough to handle the rest." Alina studied him. In the firelight, he looked less intimidating and more regal. There was an authority to the way he held himself, a quiet confidence that said he was accustomed to being obeyed. "Who are you?" she asked. "Kael Draven." The name hit her like a slap. Alina's eyes widened. "The Wolf King." "Ah." Kael's smile widened slightly. "So even outcasts have heard of me." Heard of him? Everyone in the Northern Territories knew King Kael Draven. He ruled the Western wolf clans with absolute authority, a warrior so powerful that entire packs submitted rather than face him in battle. He was feared, respected, and according to rumor, utterly ruthless. "Why?" Alina asked. "Why would the Wolf King save someone like me?" Kael stood and crossed to her bedside. He moved with that same predatory grace she'd noticed in the ravine, every step deliberate and controlled. When he reached her, he knelt so they were eye level. "Do you know what a true mate is?" he asked quietly. Alina blinked, confusion washing over her. "Everyone knows. It's a legend, a bond between souls, 2 wolves destined for each other." "Not a legend," Kael said. "A reality. Rare, but real." He reached out and gently brushed a strand of hair from her face. The touch sent an electric shock through Alina's body, making her gasp. "I have lived for 300 years. I have led armies, conquered territories, built an empire, and in all that time, I never thought I would find mine." "What are you saying?" Kael's golden eyes blazed with intensity. "You, Alina Crow, you are my mate, my destined partner, the other half of my soul." Alina stared at him, certain she had heard wrong, certain the concussion had scrambled her brain. That's impossible. I'm nobody. I can't even shift. I'm the weakest." "You are not weak," Kael interrupted, his voice sharp. "Someone has made you believe that. Someone has suppressed what you truly are. But I can sense it, even if you can't. There is power inside you, Alina. Tremendous power. It's been caged, chained, hidden away, but it's there." "You're wrong," Alina whispered. "I've been tested, examined. There's no wolf in me." "Then why," Kael asked softly, "can I feel her? Why, when I scent you, do I sense something ancient and powerful sleeping beneath your skin?" Alina had no answer. She had lived her entire life knowing she was broken, defective, incomplete. The idea that there might be more to her, that she might actually have a wolf. It was too much to process. Kale seemed to sense her distress. He stood, giving her space. "Rest," he said gently. "We'll talk more when you're healed. For now, just know that you are safe here. No one will hurt you again. I give you my word." "Why should I trust the word of a king?" Alina asked bitterly. "My own pack threw me away. What makes you different?" Kyle was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but fierce. "Because they saw you as nothing. I see you as everything." He turned and left the room, closing the door softly behind him. Alina lay back against the pillows, her mind reeling. The Wolf King, true mates, hidden power. It was insane, all of it. But as she closed her eyes and let exhaustion pull her under, she couldn't deny the warmth that had spread through her body at his touch. Couldn't ignore the way her heart had raced when he looked at her. Couldn't forget the absolute conviction in his voice when he said she was his. "What is happening to me?" she thought as sleep claimed her. Outside the room, Kael Draven stood with his back against the wall, his hands clenched into fists. His beta and oldest friend, Theron Cross, approached with cautious steps. "Is it true?" Theron asked. "Is she really—" "Yes," Kael bit out. "She's my mate. The bond is unmistakable. But she can't shift. She has no wolf." "She has a wolf," Kael growled. "Someone has been suppressing it, poisoning her most likely. Wolfsbane in small doses over years would do it. Weaken her, make her seem powerless." Theron's eyes widened. "Who would do such a thing?" "That," Kael said darkly, "is what I intend to find out. And when I do—" His eyes flashed gold. "Iron Ridge Pack will answer for what they've done. For throwing away my mate. For trying to kill her. The High Council won't—" "I don't care about the High Council," Kael snarled. "Someone hurt what's mine. Someone condemned her to die, and they will pay." Theron was silent for a moment, then said quietly, "She doesn't even know what she is yet." "No," Kael agreed, "but she will. And when she finally awakens—" A fierce smile crossed his face. The entire wolf world is going to see just how wrong they were about Alina Crow. 3 days passed in a haze of pain and healing. Alina drifted in and out of consciousness, her body slowly mending from the trauma of the fall. When she was awake, Kael was there, sitting by the fire or standing guard at the door. He didn't speak much, but his presence was constant, reassuring. On the 4th day, Alina finally felt strong enough to sit up. Her ribs still ached, but the sharp stabbing pain had faded to a dull throb. Her shoulder had been reset and wrapped, and most of the bruises had faded to ugly yellows and greens. Kael entered the room carrying a tray of food, roasted meat, fresh bread, and a steaming mug of tea. "You need to eat," he said, setting the tray on the small table beside the bed. "You've lost too much weight." Alina eyed the food warily. "Why are you doing this? I told you, you're my mate. You don't even know me." "I know enough." Kael settled into the chair across from her. "I know you're stronger than you realize. I know you survived a fall that should have killed you. I know you smiled at your executioners instead of begging." His eyes gleamed with approval. "That takes courage." "Or stupidity," Alina muttered. She picked up the bread and took a tentative bite. The moment the food hit her tongue, her stomach roared to life, reminding her she hadn't eaten in days. She tore into the meal with desperate hunger, barely tasting it. Kael watched her with something like satisfaction. "When you're strong enough," he said, "I'm taking you to my healer. I need to know exactly what was done to you." Alina paused mid-bite. "What do you mean?" "I mean, someone has been poisoning you, Alina. For years. Probably since you were a child. Small doses of wolfsbane, carefully administered. Just enough to suppress your wolf, to keep her locked away. Just enough to make you weak." The bread turned to ash in her mouth. That's impossible. Who would—" "Someone who wanted you powerless," Kael said flatly. "Someone who feared what you might become if your wolf ever emerged." Alina set down the bread, her appetite gone. "Even if that's true, why? I was nobody, just an omega. What threat could I possibly pose?" "That," Kael said, is what we're going to find out. A knock at the door interrupted them. Theron entered, his expression grim. My lord, he said, there's a problem. The High Council has sent a summons. Kael's jaw tightened. What do they want? They've heard you interfered with an Iron Ridge Pact judgment. They're calling you before the council to answer for it. Theron's eyes flicked to Alina. They want her brought before them as well, to stand trial. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Kyle stood slowly, his power radiating out in waves that made the air feel thick and heavy. They want to put her on trial, he said softly. Dangerously. It's pack law, Theron said carefully. She was condemned by her alpha. You had no right to interfere. I had every right, Kael snarled. She's my mate. That supersedes pack law. The council won't see it that way. Not without proof of the bond. And since she can't shift, then we'll give them proof, Kael said. He looked at Alina, his golden eyes blazing. If we refuse the summons, they'll declare war. But if we go, he trailed off, clearly conflicted. Alina surprised herself by speaking up. I'll go. Both men turned to stare at her. I'll stand before the council, Alina continued, her voice stronger than she felt. I'm innocent. If there's even a chance to prove that, to clear my name. She met Kael's gaze. I have to try. They'll tear you apart, Kael said bluntly. The council is made up of the most powerful alphas in the territories. They show no mercy to the weak. Then I'll have to be strong, Alina said. A slow smile spread across Kael's face. There she is, he murmured. There's that fire I sensed in you. He crossed to her and knelt beside the bed, taking her hand in his. The touch sent that electric sensation racing through her again, and Alina's breath caught. If you do this, Kael said seriously, I will be with you every step of the way. But you need to understand what you're walking into. These alphas will not be kind. They will question you, mock you, try to break you. And if they sense weakness, his grip tightened. They will destroy you. They already tried that, Alina said quietly. I'm still here. Kael studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Very well. We go before the High Council, but first we visit my healer. If you're going to face them, you need to be as strong as possible. He stood and helped Alina to her feet. She swayed slightly, still weak, but forced herself to stand steady. One more thing, Kael said. When we go before the council, you will not lower your eyes. You will not submit. You will stand as what you are, my mate, my equal. Let them see your strength, Alina. Let them see that you are not broken. Alina nodded, even though inside she was terrified. Because the truth was, she still felt broken, still felt powerless, still felt like the worthless Omega who couldn't shift. But as she looked into Kael Draven's golden eyes, as she felt the warmth of his hand in hers, something stirred deep inside her, something that had been sleeping for a very, very long time. And for the first time in her life, Alina wondered if maybe, just maybe, everyone had been wrong about her. The healer's examination was thorough and brutal. An ancient woman named Morrigan poked and prodded Alina, drew her blood, tested her reflexes, and finally stood back with a grim expression. Wolfsbane, Morrigan confirmed, her weathered face creased with anger. Administered over at least 15 years, possibly longer. It's built up in her system, created a barrier between her conscious mind and her wolf. Can it be reversed? Kael demanded. Maybe, but it will take time. And pain. Morgan looked at Alina with something like pity. When the barrier breaks, child, your wolf will come roaring out. Years of suppression, years of rage and grief. It will all hit you at once. You need to be prepared for that. Alina swallowed hard. How do we start? We don't, Morgan said. Not yet. In your current condition, forcing the shift would kill you. You need to heal first, regain your strength. Then we can begin purging the poison. Kael looked like he wanted to argue, but Theron put a hand on his shoulder. The council meeting is in 5 days, Theron said quietly. We have time to build her strength, but not enough to complete the purging process. Then she goes before them as she is, Kael said, and we protect her. My lord, Morgan said carefully, if they demand she shift as proof of her wolf, she won't be able to, Kael finished grimly. I know. Alina felt the weight of impossibility settling over her. She couldn't shift, couldn't prove she had a wolf, couldn't defend herself against their accusations. "What will happen?" she asked quietly. Kale's expression was dark. "They'll likely rule in Iron Ridge's favor, confirm your exile, perhaps even order your execution." "Then why are we going?" "Because," Kale said, turning to face her fully, "I am not just asking them to overturn your sentence. I'm claiming you before the entire High Council as my mate. Once that claim is made public, anyone who tries to harm you will be making an enemy of me, of my entire kingdom." "That's a huge risk," Alina protested. "If they don't believe the bond, then I'll make them believe it," Kyle said flatly. "One way or another, Alina Crow, you are walking out of that council chamber alive and free. I swear it." The conviction in his voice sent chills down Alina's spine. This man, this king, was willing to stake his reputation, his authority, perhaps even his kingdom on her. A girl he'd known for less than a week. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you risk so much for me?" Kael stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. He reached up and gently cupped her face in his hands, tilting her head so she had to meet his eyes. "Because in 300 years," he said softly, "I have never felt anything like what I feel when I look at you. Because the moment I scented you in that ravine, something inside me that had been dormant for centuries woke up. Because you are mine, Alina. And I protect what's mine. Always." Then before she could respond, he leaned down and pressed his forehead to hers. It was an intimate gesture, a wolf's way of showing affection and connection. And the moment their skin touched, Alina felt it, a surge of warmth, of belonging, of rightness that she'd never experienced before. The mate bond. It was real. Tears pricked her eyes. "I can feel it," she breathed. "I can feel something between us." "That's just the beginning," Kael murmured. "When you finally shift, when your wolf emerges and recognizes mine, the bond will be complete, unbreakable. And if I never shift?" "You will," Kael said with absolute certainty. "I can feel her inside you, Alina. She's there. She's been waiting, and soon—" His eyes blazed gold. "Soon she'll be free." Alina wanted to believe him, wanted to trust in this impossible bond, this unexpected salvation. But years of being told she was worthless, powerless, broken, those scars didn't heal overnight. "I'm afraid," she admitted quietly. "Good," Kael said. "Fear means you understand the stakes, but don't let it control you." He pulled back slightly, his eyes searching hers. "In 5 days we face the council. Until then, you train with me. You eat, you rest, you prepare. And when we walk into that chamber, you walk beside me as my equal. Not behind me, not cowering, beside me." "I don't know how to be anyone's equal," Alina said, "especially not a king's." A fierce smile crossed Kael's face. "Then I'll teach you." The 5 days that followed were the most intense of Alina's life. Kael was true to his word. He trained her personally, teaching her not to fight, she was still too injured for that, but to carry herself with authority, to meet eyes instead of dropping her gaze, to speak clearly and firmly instead of mumbling, to stand tall even when everything inside her screamed to make herself small. "You have been taught to submit," Kael explained on the second day as they walked through his fortress. "Your pack conditioned you to believe you were lesser. But submission is a choice, Alina, and you can choose differently." "It's not that simple," Alina argued. "When you've been beaten down your whole life—" "I know," Kael interrupted gently. "I do. But the council will see any weakness and exploit it. So you must give them nothing. Show them steel, even if inside you're terrified." "Fake it until you make it?" Alina said with a weak smile. "Exactly." He also introduced her to his inner circle. Theron she already knew, a quiet, steady presence who served as Kael's beta and closest advisor. Then there was Lyra, the captain of the Royal Guard, a fierce woman with silver hair and scars crisscrossing her face. And Finian, the court's master of information, a slender man with quick eyes and a quicker smile. They all treated her with respect, which was perhaps the strangest thing of all. No mockery, no whispered insults, just simple courtesy, as if she actually mattered. On the 4th night, as Alina sat by the fire in her room, Lyra knocked and entered without waiting for permission. "Walk with me," the guard captain said. It wasn't a request. Alina followed Lyra through the fortress corridors until they reached a training yard under the stars. Weapons lined the walls, swords, spears, bows, and things Alina didn't have names for. "Do you know why he's doing this?" Lyra asked, her back to Alina. "The king? He says I'm his mate." "That's part of it." Lyra turned, her sharp eyes assessing. "But there's more. Kael Draven has never claimed a mate. In 3 centuries, he's never let anyone close enough to matter. Do you know what that means?" Alina shook her head. "It means you represent a vulnerability," Lyra said bluntly. "His enemies will see you as a weakness to exploit. They'll come for you to hurt him. And if you can't defend yourself, if you can't stand on your own," she let the implication hang. "I'll be a liability," Alina finished quietly. "Yes." Lyra's expression softened slightly. "Which is why you need to prove to the council and to his enemies that you're more than just some fragile thing he's protecting. You need to show them you're worthy of standing beside a king." "I don't know if I can," Alina admitted. "Then learn," Lyra said. She pulled a dagger from her belt and tossed it to Alina, who caught it awkwardly. "We have 1 night before the council meeting. Let's see what you're made of." They trained until dawn. Lyra was merciless, knocking Alina down again and again, forcing her to get back up, to keep trying. By the time the sun rose, Alina was bruised, exhausted, and frustrated. But she was still standing. "Better," Lyra said, the closest thing to praise Alina had heard from her. "You've got grit, at least. That's something." That morning, Kael summoned Alina to his chambers. When she entered, he was dressed in formal attire, black leather and silver mail, a cloak of midnight fur draped over his shoulders. He looked every inch the warrior king. "Tonight," he said, "we leave for the council meeting. Are you ready?" Alina wanted to say no, wanted to run and hide and pretend none of this was happening. Instead, she lifted her chin and said, "Yes." Kael smiled. "Good, then there's one more thing you need." He gestured to a long box on the table. Alina opened it and gasped. Inside was a dress of deep forest green, the color of her eyes. But this wasn't the simple, threadbare clothing she'd worn in Iron Ridge. This was a gown fit for royalty, silk and velvet, embroidered with silver thread in patterns of wolves and stars. It was the most beautiful thing Alina had ever seen. "I can't wear this," she breathed. "You can and you will," Kael said firmly. "When you enter that council chamber, you enter as my mate. You will look the part." Alina ran her fingers over the fabric, overwhelmed. "I don't know how to be what you need me to be." Kael crossed to her and tilted her chin up so she met his eyes. "I don't need you to be anything other than yourself. Just be brave, be strong, be the woman who smiled at her executioners and refused to break." "That woman was half dead and delirious," Alina said with a weak laugh. "That woman," Kael said seriously, "was magnificent." He leaned down and pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead. The touch sent warmth flooding through Alina's entire body, chasing away the fear and doubt. "I'll be right beside you," Kael murmured against her skin. "No matter what happens. You're not alone anymore, Alina." And as Alina stood there in the arms of the Wolf King, wearing a dress that made her feel like someone who mattered, she allowed herself to hope. Maybe she could do this. Maybe she could face the council and survive. Maybe, just maybe, she was stronger than anyone, including herself, had ever believed. The journey to the council stronghold began at dusk. Alina rode beside Kael, flanked by Theron, Lyra, and a contingent of royal guards. As they traveled through the northern forests, Alina tried not to think about what awaited her. But her mind kept circling back to one question. What if she failed? As if sensing her thoughts, Kael reached over and took her hand. The simple gesture steadied her, reminded her she wasn't facing this alone. "Tell me about the council," Alina said, desperate for distraction. "Who will be there?" "The High Council is made up of 7 alphas," Kael explained. "Each represents a major territory. There's Roderick Hale of Iron Ridge, your former alpha." Alina's stomach twisted. "Then there's Helena Frost of the Winter Clans, Marcus Thorn of the Mountain Packs, Cassia Redwood of the Southern Forests, Dmitry Volkov of the Eastern Steppes, Isabeau Nightshade of the Coastal Territories, and Aldrich Stone of the desert packs. I am the 8th, representing the Western Kingdoms. And they all get a vote on my fate? Yes, Kael said. Majority rules. We need 4 votes to overturn your sentence. How many can we count on? Kael was quiet for a moment. Honestly, maybe 2. Isabeau and I have an alliance. Helena might be sympathetic if I explain the mate bond. The others, he shrugged. It will depend on how you present yourself, how you answer their questions. No pressure then, Alina muttered. Kael squeezed her hand. You'll do fine. Just remember, you are not on trial for being weak. You're on trial for crimes you didn't commit. Hold on to that. They traveled through the night, stopping only briefly to rest. As dawn broke on the 6th day, they crested a hill, and Alina saw it, the Council Citadel. It was a massive fortress carved into the side of a mountain, all gray stone and sharp towers. Hundreds of wolves moved through its courtyard, representatives from packs across the territories. The air hummed with power and tension. Stay close, Kael murmured as they approached the gates. The guards at the entrance recognized Kael immediately and bowed, but their eyes lingered on Alina with curiosity and contempt. She could hear the whispers starting already. Who is she? Why is she with the king? Look how weak she is. Alina lifted her chin and kept her eyes forward, just as Kael had taught her. They were escorted through the citadel to a grand chamber with high ceilings and walls carved with the history of the wolf clans. At the far end sat 7 thrones arranged in a semicircle. 6 were already occupied. Alina's eyes immediately found Roderick Hale. Her former alpha sat with his arms crossed, his expression cold and unmoved. Beside him sat the other council members, powerful, intimidating, radiating authority. And they were all staring at her. King Kael Draven, announced the herald, and his companion. The word companion was said with just enough disdain to sting. Kael guided Alina to the center of the chamber and then, to her shock, stepped back to his own throne, leaving her standing alone. She wanted to panic, wanted to call him back, but she forced herself to remain still, to keep breathing, to remember everything he taught her, show them steel. Helena Frost, an elegant woman with white blonde hair, spoke first. King Draven, you called this emergency council session. State your business. Kael rose from his throne, his presence commanding immediate attention. I called you here to address a grave injustice. This woman, Alina Crow, was condemned by Iron Ridge Pack for crimes she did not commit. She was thrown into Widow's Ravine to die. I rescued her and now claim her as my true mate. Gasps rippled through the chamber. Roderick's expression darkened. Impossible, he said. She has no wolf. She cannot be anyone's mate. She has a wolf, Kael countered, one that has been suppressed through years of deliberate poisoning. Someone in your pack, Roderick, has been dosing her with wolfsbane since childhood. That's a serious accusation, Marcus Thorne rumbled. And I have proof, Kael said. He gestured to Morrigan, who stepped forward with the results of her examination. My healer tested her blood. The wolfsbane levels are undeniable. Someone wanted Alina powerless. The question is why? Roderick stood, his face flushed with anger. This is ridiculous. The girl is a known thief and traitor. Based on what evidence? Kael interrupted. Bottles planted in her room? A messenger who conveniently identified her? He turned to address the full council. I believe Alina Crow was framed, set up to take the fall for someone else's crimes, and when she became a liability, she was disposed of. Even if that's true, Cassia Redwood said carefully, it's an internal pack matter. You had no right to interfere. I had every right, Kael said sharply. The mate bond supersedes pack law. It is sacred and absolute. Then prove it, Dmitry Volkov demanded. If she's truly your mate, let her shift. Let us see her wolf. Kael's jaw tightened. This was the trap, the impossible demand. Before he could respond, Alina surprised everyone, including herself, by speaking. I can't. Her voice rang out clear and strong in the massive chamber. All eyes turned to her. I can't shift, Alina continued, forcing herself to meet their gazes. The poison in my system has locked my wolf away. But that doesn't change the truth. I am innocent of the crimes I was accused of, and I deserve the chance to prove it. Convenient, Roderick sneered. Claim you're poisoned when you simply have no wolf to begin with. Then explain the test results, Alina shot back, anger flaring in her chest. Explain why my blood is saturated with wolfsbane. Explain why someone would do that if I was already powerless. Perhaps you did it yourself, Roderick suggested. To earn sympathy. To trap a king with lies about a mate bond. The accusation was so absurd, so infuriating, that Alina actually laughed. It was a sharp, bitter sound. You think I poisoned myself for years? Made myself weak and helpless on purpose? Lived as an outcast, beaten and mocked, all for the tiny chance that maybe someday a king would find me dying in a ravine? She shook her head. You must think me far more clever than you ever gave me credit for. A few council members shifted uncomfortably. Isabeau Nightshade was actually smiling slightly. The girl has spirit, Helena Frost observed. I'll give her that. A spirit doesn't prove innocence, Aldrich Stone said gruffly. We need facts. Evidence. Then investigate, Kael said. Send your own people to Iron Ridge. Interview the pack members. Test the medicine stores. Follow the money trail for the stolen supplies. I guarantee you'll find the real culprits. And in the meantime, Roderick demanded, she goes free? The law she broke is simply ignored? The law was used as a weapon against an innocent woman, Kael said coldly. So yes, it should be ignored. The council erupted in argument. Voices rose, accusations flew, and through it all Alina stood in the center, feeling like prey surrounded by predators. And then cutting through the chaos, a new voice spoke. Perhaps there's a simpler solution. Everyone turned. The voice belonged to Isabeau Nightshade, a striking woman with dark skin and silver eyes. She rose from her throne with fluid grace. If we cannot verify the mate bond because the girl cannot shift, Isabeau said, then we wait. House her here, under guard, while King Kael's claims are investigated. If the investigation proves her innocent, and if her wolf emerges, then the matter is settled. If not, she shrugged elegantly. Then we revisit the original sentence. It was a compromise. Not freedom, but not execution either. Kael looked like he wanted to argue, but Theron caught his eye and gave a small nod. It was the best they were going to get. I can accept those terms, Kael said slowly. But Alina stays under my protection. In my territory, not locked in some council dungeon. Agreed, Helena said. Let it be so decided. We'll send investigators to Iron Ridge immediately. This council is adjourned for 3 weeks. We reconvene then to review the findings. One by one, the council members rose and filed out. Roderick left with murder in his eyes. The others seemed merely relieved to be done with the mess. When the chamber finally cleared, Kael crossed to Alina and pulled her into his arms. You did well, he murmured. So well. I'm proud of you. Alina sagged against him, adrenaline draining away. I thought they were going to kill me. They still might, Kael admitted. If the investigation doesn't find what we need, if your wolf doesn't emerge in time, then what do we do? Kael pulled back and looked at her seriously. We find the truth ourselves. Someone framed you, someone poisoned you, and we're going to find out who and why and make them pay. Alina nodded, exhaustion weighing her down. But beneath the fear and fatigue, something else stirred. Anger. For the first time in her life, Alina Crow was angry, furious at the people who had hurt her, betrayed her, tried to kill her. And as she stood in the council chamber where she'd just fought for her life with nothing but words, she made a silent vow. She would survive this, would prove her innocence, would find whoever had destroyed her life. And when she did, they would see just how wrong they'd been about the powerless Omega. The journey back to Kael's territory should have been a relief, but Alina felt the weight of 100 watching eyes following them through the forest. Word of the council meeting had spread like wildfire. The Wolf King had claimed a mate, a powerless Omega accused of treason. The territories buzzed with gossip, speculation, and in some quarters outright mockery. They reached the fortress just before dawn. Alina was exhausted, her body aching from days of tension and travel, but sleep wouldn't come. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Roderick's hateful glare, heard the council's dismissive voices, felt the crushing pressure of their judgment. She stood at the window of her chambers, watching the sky lighten when Kael entered without knocking. You should be resting, he said. I can't. Alina turned to face him. 3 weeks. That's all we have to find proof of who framed me. What if we can't do it in time? Then we'll face that when it comes, Kyle said, but his expression was troubled. Theron has already dispatched our best trackers to Iron Ridge. Finian is working his network of informants. We'll find something. And if you don't? Cale crossed to her, his presence filling the room. Then I'll take you somewhere the council can't reach. We'll disappear. You'd abandon your kingdom for me? Alina asked, disbelief coloring her voice. Without hesitation, Kael said flatly. I have spent 3 centuries building power, forging alliances, ruling with absolute authority, and I would give all of it up before I let them take you from me. The fierce conviction in his voice sent a shiver down Alina's spine. That's insane. That's the mate bond, Kyle corrected. He reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his touch gentle despite the calloused roughness of his hands. You don't understand it yet because your wolf is still sleeping. But I feel it, Alina. Every moment, this pull toward you, this absolute certainty that you are mine and I am yours. It's not rational, it's not political, it's primal. Alina leaned into his touch despite herself. I wish I could feel it the way you do. You will, Kyle promised. When your wolf wakes, when she finally breaks free of whatever cage they've put her in, you'll understand. Until then, he smiled slightly. You'll just have to trust me. That's a lot to ask from someone who spent her whole life being lied to, Alina said, but there was no heat in it. I know, Kyle said seriously, which is why I'm going to prove it to you. Today. Come with me. He led her through the fortress to a section she hadn't seen before, a massive library filled with ancient texts and scrolls. Morgan was already there, surrounded by open books and vials of strange liquids. You're sure about this? The healer asked Kyle. We don't have a choice, Kale replied. 3 weeks isn't enough time to let the wolfsbane purge naturally. We need to accelerate the process. Alina's stomach dropped. What are you talking about? Morgan turned to her, her weathered face grave. We're going to try to force your first shift. Break through the barrier the poison created. You said that would kill me, Alina protested. I said it could kill you, Morgan corrected, if done wrong. But I've been researching, consulting old texts. There's a ritual, dangerous, painful, but possible. If we can weaken the barrier enough first, then push you into a shift. She trailed off, clearly not liking the odds. How dangerous? Alina demanded. Very, Kael said bluntly. There's a chance your body won't survive the transformation. The wolfsbane has weakened you, and forcing a shift in that state could tear you apart from the inside. Then why even suggest it? Because if you go before the council in 3 weeks still unable to shift, they will execute you, Kael said flatly. Roderick will make sure of it. He looked at you like he wanted you dead, Alina, like your very existence is a threat to him. That much was true. The hatred in her former alpha's eyes had been unmistakable. And if this ritual works? Alina asked. If I shift? Then you prove the mate bond is real, Kael said. You prove you have a wolf. You prove you're not the powerless nothing they claimed. It changes everything. Alina looked between Kael and Morgan, her mind racing. It was a terrible gamble, die trying to shift or die at the council's judgment. Some choice. What do I have to do? She asked quietly. Relief flashed across Kael's face. The ritual requires 3 phases. First, we purge as much wolfsbane from your system as possible. That means drinking a concoction that will make you violently ill for days. Everything in your stomach, everything in your blood, it all has to come out. Sounds delightful, Alina muttered. Second, Morgan continued, we expose you to pure lunar energy. The full moon is in 6 days. We'll take you to the ancient altar in the northern peaks, where the moon's power is strongest. It will call to your wolf, try to draw her out. And third? Alina asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know. Kael's expression darkened. Third, we force the issue. I challenge you, threaten you, make your wolf believe she needs to emerge to survive. It's brutal, but effective. You're going to attack me, Alina said flatly. Not to hurt you, Kael said quickly. Just to scare your wolf into action. She's been dormant for so long. We need to give her a reason to wake up. Alina absorbed this, her heart pounding. Everything about this plan screamed danger. But what choice did she have? When do we start? She asked. Now, Morrigan said, producing a vial of thick black liquid. Drink this. All of it. Then get to bed, because you're about to have the worst few days of your life. Alina took the vial with shaking hands. The liquid inside smelled like rotting flowers and something metallic. Her stomach turned just looking at it. Alina, Kyle said softly. You don't have to do this. We can run. Disappear. I meant what I said. No, Alina said firmly. I'm tired of running, tired of hiding, tired of being the victim. She met his eyes. I want my wolf. I want to know what it feels like to be whole. And if this is what it takes... She uncorked the vial and drank it down in 3 quick swallows. The taste was indescribable, bitter and sweet and burning all at once. It hit her stomach like liquid fire. Get her to bed, Morrigan ordered. It'll hit hard and fast. Kale scooped Alina up as her knees buckled. The world spun, colors bleeding together. Her stomach cramped viciously and she gasped in pain. I've got you, Kale murmured, carrying her swiftly through the corridors. I've got you. He laid her on the bed in her chambers just as the first wave of nausea hit. Alina barely made it to the basin before she was violently sick. Her whole body shook, sweat pouring down her face. It's working, Morgan said, suddenly there with more vials and cloths. The medicine is binding to the wolfsbane, forcing it out. This is going to get worse before it gets better. She wasn't wrong. For 3 days, Alina existed in a haze of pain and sickness. She couldn't keep food down, couldn't sleep for more than an hour at a time. Her muscles cramped and spasmed. Fever burned through her, then left her shaking with chills. She vomited until there was nothing left, then vomited bile and blood. Through it all, Kael stayed. He held her hair back when she was sick, changed her sweat-soaked sheets, forced water between her lips when she was too weak to drink on her own. He didn't leave, didn't flinch from the ugliness of it. On the 4th day, the worst of it passed. Alina woke to find herself clean, dressed in fresh clothes and tucked into bed. Kael sat in the chair beside her, dark circles under his eyes. You look terrible, Alina croaked. A tired smile crossed his face. You should see yourself. Alina tried to laugh, but it came out as a cough. How long? 3 days, Kael said. Morrigan says the wolfsbane levels in your blood have dropped significantly. Not gone, but low enough that we can proceed to phase 2. The full moon, Alina remembered. When? Tonight. Fear spiked through her, but also something else. Anticipation. For the first time in her life, there was a real chance she might shift, might finally know what it felt like to have a wolf. I'm ready, she said, though she wasn't sure she believed it. Kael helped her out of bed. Her legs shook, weak from days of illness, but she forced herself to stand, to walk, to prove she could still fight. That evening, as the sun began to set, they prepared for the journey to the northern peaks. Alina dressed in simple, sturdy clothes that would survive a transformation if one came. Lyra and Theron would accompany them, along with Morrigan. The altar is sacred ground, Morrigan explained as they rode through the darkening forest. Built by the first wolves, thousands of years ago. The moon's power is concentrated there. If anything can call to your wolf, it's that place. They rode for hours, climbing higher into the mountains. The air grew thin and cold. Snow crunched under their horses' hooves. Finally, just as the full moon began to rise, they reached it. The altar was a circle of standing stones on a flat plateau. Ancient runes were carved into each stone, glowing faintly in the moonlight. The space between the stones hummed with power, making the hair on Alina's arms stand up. Step into the center, Morgan instructed. Remove your shoes. You need to feel the earth beneath you. Alina did as she was told, walking barefoot across the frozen ground to the altar's heart. The moment she crossed into the circle, the temperature dropped 20 degrees. Her breath misted in the air, and frost crept across her skin. Above, the moon rose full and bright, washing everything in silver light. Close your eyes, Morgan said. Open yourself to it. Let the moon see you. Let your wolf feel her call. Alina closed her eyes and tried to quiet her racing thoughts. She stood there, freezing and vulnerable, and reached deep inside herself for something she'd never felt before. At first there was nothing, just cold and fear and the sound of her own breathing. Then, slowly, she felt it. A presence. Deep, deep inside, something wild and angry and caged. It paced in the darkness of her mind, snarling and snapping at invisible chains. "I feel something," Alina gasped. "There's something there." "Good," Kael said. He had shifted position, circling around behind her. "Now we push." "Wait, what?" Kael's power slammed into her like a physical force. He released his alpha aura, the full weight of his dominance, and it crashed over Alina like a tidal wave. Every instinct screamed at her to submit, to fall to her knees, to bare her throat. But that thing inside her, that caged presence, roared in defiance. "No," Alina heard herself growl, and the voice wasn't entirely her own. "No." "That's it," Kael said, his voice hard and commanding. "Fight me. Show me your wolf." He pushed harder, his aura intensifying until Alina could barely breathe under the pressure. Her knees buckled, but she locked them, refusing to fall. Inside her, the presence grew stronger, angrier. It threw itself against its cage, desperate to break free, to meet this challenge, to prove it was not weak. "Come on," Kael snarled. "I can feel her. She's right there. Break through, Alina, break through." Pain exploded through Alina's body. Her bones felt like they were splintering, her muscles tearing. She screamed, the sound raw and animal. "It's happening," Morgan said urgently. "Don't fight it, child. Let her out." But Alina didn't know how. She'd never shifted before, had no idea what she was supposed to do. All she knew was agony as her body tried to change, and the remnants of Wolfsbane fought to keep her human. "Alina," Kael said, his voice cutting through the pain. "Look at me." She opened her eyes. When had she closed them? And met his golden gaze. "You are not weak," he said fiercely. "You are not powerless. You are mine, and I am yours, and together we are unstoppable. So shift, transform, show them all what you really are." Something inside Alina shattered. The cage. The barrier. Whatever had been holding her wolf prisoner for 23 years finally broke. Power erupted through her like lightning. Her back arched, her mouth opened in a scream that became a howl. Bones shifted, reformed, her skin rippled, fur bursting through. Her senses exploded. Suddenly she could smell everything, hear everything, feel everything with startling clarity. The transformation was agony and ecstasy all at once. It felt like dying and being reborn in the same instant. And then it was done. Alina collapsed onto 4 legs, panting, her vision swimming. Everything looked different, sharper. The world was painted in shades she'd never seen before, scents she'd never imagined. She tried to speak, and a soft whine came out instead. "Alina." Kael's voice was thick with emotion. "Look at yourself." She looked down and saw paws, not brown or gray or black like most wolves, silver. Her fur was pure silver, gleaming in the moonlight like molten metal. She was smaller than most wolves, but sleek and powerful, every muscle coiled with strength she'd never possessed in human form. "A silver wolf," Morrigan breathed. "I didn't think. They're extinct. Have been for centuries." "Apparently not," Theron said, his voice filled with awe. Alina took a tentative step, then another. Her legs felt strange, different, but coordinating them came naturally. She walked in a small circle, marveling at her own body. Then Kael shifted. One moment he was a man, the next a massive black wolf easily twice Alina's size. His eyes remained golden, burning with intelligence and power. He padded toward her and Alina's wolf instinct screamed at her to submit to the obvious alpha, but she didn't. She held her ground, meeting his gaze. Kael's wolf rumbled, not a growl, but something closer to a purr. He touched his nose to hers, and the mate bond exploded between them. Alina felt it fully for the first time. The connection, the belonging, the absolute certainty that this wolf, this man, was hers in every way that mattered. Her wolf recognized his wolf, and the recognition was mutual and complete. She had a mate. She had a wolf. She had power. For the first time in her entire life, Alina felt whole. They stayed on the mountain for hours, running through the snow, getting used to her new form. Kyle taught her to hunt, to fight, to move like the predator she now was. And when they finally shifted back to human form, Alina stood naked in the moonlight, her body covered in scars and bruises, but stronger than it had ever been. "How do you feel?" Kyle asked, wrapping his cloak around her shoulders. "Different," Alina said. "I feel powerful." "Is this what it's always been like for everyone else?" "Not like this," Kyle said, studying her with those intense eyes. "Silver wolves are legendary, Alina. They're stronger, faster, rarer than any other bloodline. The last one died 300 years ago, killed by hunters who feared what she could become." "What could she become?" "The most powerful wolf alive," Kyle said quietly. "Stronger even than most alphas. Your bloodline was hunted to extinction because they were too dangerous to let live." The implications sank in slowly. "That's why someone poisoned me. They knew what I was, what I could become." "Yes?" Morgan said. "Someone in Iron Ridge knew you carried silver wolf blood, and they made sure you'd never be strong enough to threaten them." "But who?" Alina demanded. "Who would even know? My parents died when I was 5. I've been an orphan since—" She stopped, a memory surfacing. Elena, the healer. The one person who'd had unlimited access to Alina throughout her childhood. The one who'd given her vitamins every week without fail. "Elena," Alina breathed. "It was Elena." Kyle's eyes narrowed. "The healer who accused you at your trial?" "She's been giving me medicine since I was a child," Alina said, the pieces falling into place. "Weekly doses. She said they were vitamins, that I needed them because I was weak. But they weren't vitamins, they were poison." "Why would a healer poison a child?" Theron asked. "Because someone ordered her to," Kyle said grimly. "Someone with authority over her. Someone who wanted Alina weak and controllable." "Roderick," Alina said, certainty flooding through her. "The Alpha. He must have known what I was, known, and feared it." "But how did he even know to look?" Lyra asked. "You said your parents died when you were 5. If they hid your bloodline that well—" "Unless they didn't die by accident," Alina interrupted, horror dawning. "What if they were murdered? What if Roderick killed them to get to me?" The group fell silent, the implications staggering. "We need proof," Kale said finally. "Speculation won't convince the council. We need evidence that connects Roderick to your poisoning, to your parents' deaths, to the frame job." "How?" Alina asked. "We have less than 3 weeks." "Then we go to Iron Ridge ourselves," Kyle said. "We find Elena, make her talk, get her to confess who ordered her to poison you." "That's suicide," Theron protested. "Roderick's territory is locked down tight. If we go there—" "We don't ask permission," Kyle said flatly. "We go at night, quietly. Get in, get Elena, get out. And if we're caught, then we fight our way out," Kyle said. "But we're not going to get caught." Alina should have been terrified, should have protested this insane plan. Instead, she felt a fierce determination rising in her chest. "When do we leave?" she asked. Kyle smiled. "Tomorrow night. We'll take a small team, just us, Theron, and Lyra, fast and quiet." They returned to the fortress as dawn broke. Alina was exhausted but exhilarated. She had a wolf. She had shifted. She had felt the mate bond fully for the first time, and it was everything Kyle had said and more. But that triumph was tempered by the knowledge of what lay ahead. They were about to infiltrate hostile territory, to kidnap a pack member and force a confession. If they failed, if they were caught, it would be war. Alina spent the day resting and preparing. She practiced shifting, getting faster at the transformation. Lyra taught her basic combat in wolf form. Theron drilled her on Iron Ridge's territory, showing her maps and escape routes. By nightfall, she was as ready as she'd ever be. They set out under cover of darkness, 4 wolves running through the forest. Kyle in the lead, massive and dark. Theron and Lyra flanking them. And Alina, small and silver, keeping pace despite her inexperience. Iron Ridge territory loomed ahead, marked by scent markers and patrol routes. They skirted the main pack grounds, heading for the healer's cottage on the outskirts. Elena lived alone, as many healers did. Her cottage was dark, smoke curling from the chimney. Alina could smell wolfsbane inside. The healer clearly kept stores of it. They shifted back to human form in the trees surrounding the cottage. Kael had brought clothes in a pack, and they dressed quickly. Theron and Lyra, you watch the perimeter, Kael ordered. Alina and I go in. If anyone comes, signal and we run. Understood, Theron said. Kael and Alina approached the cottage. The door was locked, but Kael forced it with one hard shove. They slipped inside, silent as shadows. Elena was asleep in her bed, curled under thick furs. She looked peaceful, innocent. Alina felt rage burn through her at the sight. This woman had poisoned her for 18 years, had condemned her to a life of weakness and mockery, had stood at her trial and called her a liar. Kael put a hand on Elena's mouth, cutting off her scream as she woke. Her eyes went wide with terror as she recognized them. Make a sound and I'll kill you, Kael said quietly. Nod if you understand. Elena nodded frantically. Good. Kael removed his hand but stayed close, ready to silence her again if needed. We're going to have a conversation, and you're going to tell us the truth. Who ordered you to poison Alina? I don't know what you... Alina stepped into the light, and Elena's words died. She stared at Alina's face, at her eyes, and understanding dawned. You shifted, Elena whispered. You actually shifted. Yes, Alina said coldly. Turns out I had a wolf all along, just buried under years of the wolfsbane you fed me every week. I was trying to help you, Elena protested. You were sick. I was treating... Liar, Alina snarled. I know what you did. I want to know why. Who told you to do it? Elena's face crumpled. I can't. He'll kill me. We'll kill you if you don't, Kael said flatly. Choose. Tears streamed down Elena's face. I didn't want to. I swear I didn't want to. But he said if I didn't, he'd exile my family, my children. Who? Alina demanded. Roderick, Elena sobbed. Alpha Roderick. He came to me when you were 5 years old, right after your parents died. He said you were dangerous, that you had cursed blood, that if I didn't suppress your wolf, you'd destroy the pack. And you believed him? Alina asked, disgust coloring her voice. He's the Alpha, Elena said desperately. I had to obey. But I thought if I just kept you weak enough, he'd lose interest, that eventually you'd just be a normal Omega and he'd leave you alone. Instead, he framed me for treason and tried to have me killed, Alina said. Elena flinched. I didn't know he'd do that, I swear. When the medicines went missing, when he accused you, I thought maybe you actually had stolen them. I didn't realize... Realize what? Kael demanded. That he planted them himself, Elena whispered. That he was setting you up. I overheard him talking to Beta Marcus 2 days ago. They were planning something about making sure you stayed dead this time. Alina's blood ran cold. What are they planning? I don't know exactly, but Marcus mentioned assassins, and your name, and the Wolf Kings. Elena looked at Kael with fear in her eyes. I think they're going to try to kill you both. Before anyone could respond, a howl split the night. Theron's warning signal. We've been spotted, Kael said grimly. Time to go. Wait, Elena said urgently. She ran to her shelves and pulled down a leather journal. Take this. It's my records. Every dose of wolfsbane I gave Alina. Every order Roderick gave me. It's all written down. I kept it in case someday I needed to prove I was just following orders. Alina snatched the journal. Why would you help us now? Because I'm tired of being afraid, Elena said simply. And because what Roderick did to you, what he's still trying to do, it's wrong. I see that now. Another howl. Closer this time. We need to go, Kael said, grabbing Alina's arm. They ran from the cottage just as wolves burst from the tree line. Iron Ridge Patrol, at least a dozen strong. They'd been found. Shift, Kael roared. Alina called on her wolf and felt the transformation take her. It was faster this time, smoother. Within seconds, she was on 4 legs, the journal clutched in her jaws. Kael's massive black wolf charged the patrol, scattering them. Theron and Lyra flanked him, fighting with vicious efficiency. But more wolves kept coming, drawn by the sounds of battle. Run, Kael's voice echoed in Alina's mind. the Alpha command undeniable. Get that journal to safety. Alina hesitated. Every instinct screamed at her to stay, to fight beside her mate. But he was right. The journal was evidence, proof. If she lost it, they had nothing. She ran. Through the forest she flew, silver fur gleaming in the moonlight. Behind her she heard snarls and yelps as the battle raged. She heard Kael's roar, heard wolves crying out in pain. But she didn't stop, couldn't stop. She ran until her lungs burned, until her legs trembled, until she crossed into neutral territory and the pursuit finally fell away. Only then did she stop, panting, the journal still safe in her jaws. She shifted back to human form and clutched the leather book to her chest. Minutes later, Kael, Theron, and Lyra caught up to her. They were bloodied but alive, moving fast. "Did anyone follow?" Kael demanded. "No," Theron said, "but they know it was us. Roderick will send word to the council. This is going to cause problems." "Let him," Kael said. "We have what we came for." He looked at the journal in Alina's hands. That better be worth it. Alina opened the book and scanned the pages. Dates, dosages, notes in Elena's neat handwriting, and there, on page after page, notations. Alpha's orders. Alpha says increase dosage. Alpha says subject must remain weak. "It's all here," Alina breathed. "Everything we need." But Kael's expression was troubled. "Roderick will claim it's forged, or that Elena is lying. He'll say we coerced her confession." "Then we make Elena testify before the council," Alina said. "In person. Let them question her themselves." "She'll never agree to that," Lyra said. "She's terrified of Roderick." "She will if we offer her protection," Alina argued. "Sanctuary. A new life away from Iron Ridge." Kael considered this, then nodded. "It's worth a try. But first, we need to get her out of there before Roderick realizes what she told us." They spent the rest of the night planning a second infiltration, this time to extract Elena and her family before Roderick could silence them. It was dangerous, possibly suicidal, but it was their only chance. As dawn broke, they finally allowed themselves to rest. Alina sat with her back against a tree, the journal in her lap, and tried not to think about how close they'd come to dying. Kael sat beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched. "You did well tonight," he said quietly. "Your first real battle, and you didn't freeze." "I was terrified," Alina admitted. "Good. Fear keeps you sharp." Kael turned to look at her. "But you didn't let it control you. You ran when I ordered it, even though every part of you wanted to stay and fight. That takes discipline." "I hated leaving you," Alina said. "I know, but you made the right choice. The journal is more important than any single fight." Kael reached over and took her hand. "In 3 weeks, we go before the council again. And this time, we'll have proof. We'll have Elena's testimony. We'll expose Roderick for what he is." "And then?" Alina asked. "Then you're free," Kael said. "Officially, legally. No one can ever call you a traitor or a thief again. You'll be vindicated." It should have been a relief. Should have been everything Alina wanted. But Elena's warning echoed in her mind. "Assassins, your name, the Wolf Kings." "Kael," Alina said slowly, "what if Elena was telling the truth? What if Roderick is planning to kill us?" "Let him try," Kael said darkly. "I've survived 3 centuries of enemies trying to end me. One corrupt alpha won't succeed where hundreds have failed." But Alina couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible was coming. That Roderick was more dangerous than they realized. That this wouldn't end with a simple council hearing. She gripped the journal tighter, as if it could protect them from what lay ahead. Somewhere in Iron Ridge territory, Roderick Hale stood in his chambers, staring at the report his patrol had just delivered. The Wolf King and his Omega had infiltrated their lands, had kidnapped their healer, had stolen evidence. Beside him, Beta Marcus waited for orders. "They have the journal," Roderick said quietly. "Then we discredit it," Marcus suggested. "Claim it's a forgery." "It won't matter," Roderick said. "Not if Elena testifies, not if she tells them everything." He turned to face his Beta. "We're out of time. We need to act now." "The assassins?" "Yes, send word. I want them both dead before the next council meeting. I don't care how it's done, just make sure it looks like an accident." Roderick's eyes gleamed with cold fury. "That silver bitch should have died in the ravine. I won't make the mistake of showing mercy twice." Marcus bowed and left to carry out the orders. Alone in his chambers, Roderick walked to a locked chest in the corner. He opened it with a key he kept on a chain around his neck and pulled out an old photograph. It showed two wolves, one large and brown, one smaller and silver. Alina's parents. The ones he'd had killed 23 years ago when they refused to hand over their daughter. He'd known what she was from the moment she was born, had smelled the silver bloodline on her, had known that if she ever shifted, if she ever came into her full power, she'd be unstoppable. So he'd done what needed to be done. Eliminated the parents, poisoned the child, kept her weak and broken for 2 decades, and it had almost worked. She'd been nothing, no one, a powerless Omega he could have disposed of at any time. But then Kael Draven had interfered, had saved her, had helped her shift, and now she was a threat again. A real one. "You should have stayed dead," Roderick murmured to the photograph. He struck a match and held it to the corner, watching the paper catch fire. "Just like your parents." The photograph burned, curling and blackening. When it was nothing but ash, Roderick scattered it out the window and watched it disappear into the wind. In 3 weeks, Alina Crow would disappear too. One way or another. He would make certain of it. They returned to Kael's fortress just before dawn, exhausted and bloodied but alive. The journal was secured in Kael's chambers, locked away where only he and Alina could access it. But the knowledge of what it contained, and what Alina had revealed about assassins, hung over them like a storm cloud. Alina stood at the window of her room, watching the sun rise over the western mountains. She should have felt victorious. They had evidence now, proof of Roderick's crimes. In 2.5 weeks, they could present it to the council and clear her name. So why did she feel like they were walking into a trap? A knock at the door broke her thoughts. Kael entered without waiting for permission, his expression grim. "We have a problem," he said without preamble. "What now?" Roderick sent a formal complaint to the High Council. "He's accusing me of kidnapping a pack member and violating Iron Ridge sovereignty. The council has moved up our hearing." Alina's stomach dropped. "Moved it up? To when?" 5 days from now." 5 days? Alina's voice rose. "That's not enough time to get Elena out. Not enough time to verify the journal entries. Not enough time to—" "I know," Kael interrupted, "which is exactly why Roderick did it. He's backing us into a corner, forcing us to present an incomplete case before we're ready." Alina sank onto the edge of the bed, her mind racing. "Can we ask for an extension?" Theron already tried. The council denied it. They say a formal sovereignty violation requires immediate arbitration. Kael's jaw tightened. "Roderick is using pack law against us. If we don't appear in 5 days, we forfeit the case entirely." "Then we go," Alina said. "We present what we have. The journal, Elena's confession. Without Elena physically present to testify, they'll claim the journal is fake, that we coerced her words." Kael crossed to the window, staring out at his territory. "We need her there, in person. But there's no way to extract her and her family in 5 days without starting a war." "Then we start a war," Alina said quietly. Kael turned to look at her, surprise flickering across his face. "I'm serious," Alina continued, standing. "Roderick has been poisoning me since I was 5 years old. He killed my parents. He's framed me for treason, tried to murder me, and now he's sending assassins after us. At what point do we stop playing by his rules and start fighting back? If I invade Iron Ridge territory without council approval, every alpha in the northern territories will turn against me," Kael said. "It would be seen as an act of aggression, a power grab." "And if we do nothing, we die," Alina shot back. "Elena said there are assassins coming, for both of us. Do you really think we're safe here?" As if in answer, an explosion rocked the fortress. The blast came from the eastern wing, a massive boom that shook the walls and sent Alina stumbling. Kael caught her, his eyes already blazing gold as his wolf surged forward. "We're under attack," he snarled. They ran through the corridors, joining Lyra and Theron, who were already rallying the guards. Smoke poured from the eastern wing, and the scent of burning wood and something chemical filled the air. "Report!" Kael barked. "Explosion in the armory," Lyra said, her face smudged with ash. "Someone planted charges. Half our weapons are destroyed and the fire is spreading." "How many casualties?" 3 guards dead, 5 wounded. Lyra's expression was furious. "My lord, this was sabotage. Someone got inside our walls. Before Kale could respond, a guard came running up, panic in his eyes. My lord, the north gate! It's under assault! They raced to the battlements. Below, at least 40 wolves circled the fortress, too many to be a random rogue pack. These were organized, coordinated, and they wore no pack markers. Mercenaries, Theron said grimly. Roderick's hired killers. He's not wasting any time, Kyle growled. He turned to his guards. Defensive positions. No one gets through those gates. Lyra, take half the guard and contain the fire. Theron, you're with me. What about me? Alina demanded. Kale grabbed her shoulders, his eyes intense. You stay inside. These assassins are here for you as much as me. If they get you, I'm not hiding while you fight, Alina interrupted. I can shift now. I can fight. You've had your wolf for 4 days, Kyle said flatly. These are professional killers. They'll tear you apart. Then teach me, Alina said desperately. Right now, quickly. Anything that might keep me alive. Kyle hesitated, clearly torn between protecting her and acknowledging she was right. They were outnumbered and under siege. Every fighter mattered. Fine, Titan, he said. But you stay with me. You don't engage unless I give the order. Understood? Alina nodded. They shifted together, Kyle's massive black wolf dwarfing her silver form. Through the mate bond, she could feel his fear for her, his desperate need to keep her safe. But she could also feel his trust, his acceptance that she was choosing to fight beside him. The battle was chaos. The mercenaries breached the north gate within minutes, pouring into the courtyard in a coordinated assault. They were good, too good. They moved like a military unit, covering each other, targeting weak points, showing none of the wild abandon of typical wolf combat. Kyle met them head-on, a whirlwind of teeth and claws. He was magnificent in his fury, taking down 3 wolves in the first 30 seconds. Theron fought beside him, guarding his alpha's flank. Alina tried to stay close, but the battle quickly separated them. A gray wolf broke from the pack and charged her, and she barely dodged in time. Her inexperience showed immediately. Her movements were clumsy, her reactions slow. The gray wolf circled back for another attack. This time, Alina didn't dodge. She remembered Lyra's training, dropped low, and went for the throat. Her teeth found fur and flesh, and the gray wolf yelped in pain, stumbling back. Blood filled Alina's mouth, hot and metallic. Her wolf loved it, craved more. But Alina's human mind recoiled, horrified at what she'd done. That moment of hesitation almost cost her life. Another wolf, this one brown and scarred, slammed into her from the side, knocking her off her feet. Pain exploded through her ribs as teeth found her shoulder. She yelped, tried to twist away, but the brown wolf was stronger, heavier, pinning her down. Then Kael was there, ripping the brown wolf off her with savage efficiency. He stood over Alina protectively, snarling a challenge at any wolf who came close. Stay down, his voice echoed in her mind through the bond. Let me handle this. But Alina couldn't stay down. Not when she saw more mercenaries pouring through the gate. Not when she realized they were losing. She forced herself back to her feet, ignoring the pain in her shoulder. She had to do something, had to help somehow. That's when she saw him. Beta Marcus of Iron Ridge in wolf form, stalking through the chaos toward Kael's exposed back while he fought 3 mercenaries at once. Marcus was here. Roderick's second-in-command was personally leading this assault. Alina didn't think. She just moved. She charged Marcus, hitting him with all her weight before he could reach Kael. They went down in a tangle of fur and claws. Marcus was bigger, stronger, more experienced. But Alina had surprise on her side. More importantly, she had rage. All those years of abuse, of mockery, of being treated like garbage by Iron Ridge wolves like Marcus. It all came flooding back. She fought with a fury she didn't know she possessed, teeth snapping, claws raking. Marcus threw her off with a powerful kick, sending her skidding across the blood-slicked courtyard. He stalked toward her, and even in wolf form she could see the cruel satisfaction in his eyes. The worthless Omega, his voice sneered in her mind. Still trying to be something you're not. I'm your worst nightmare, Alina snarled back, surprising herself with the venom in her mental voice. She feinted left, then dove right, going for his legs. Her teeth found his ankle and she bit down hard, feeling bone crack. Marcus howled in pain and fury. But before either could continue the fight, a new scent hit the air. Silver powder. Wolfsbane. The mercenaries had brought weapons. Alina saw it too late. A canister arcing through the air, trailing silver smoke. It landed in the center of the courtyard and exploded, sending wolfsbane powder billowing out in a toxic cloud. Wolves screamed as the powder touched them, their skin blistering, their strength draining. Kale roared in pain and fury as it coated his fur. Theron collapsed, convulsing. Even the mercenaries who'd thrown it were affected, though they seemed to have some protection, perhaps antitoxin in their blood. Alina felt the wolfsbane hit her system like a hammer. Every instinct screamed at her to shift back to human form, to escape the poison burning through her wolf's fur. But if she shifted now, naked and vulnerable in the middle of a battlefield, she'd die. She forced herself to stay wolf, to keep moving despite the agony. Through the smoke and chaos, she saw Kael struggling, surrounded by mercenaries who were pressing their advantage while he was weakened. No, Alina thought desperately. Not him. They can't have him. She didn't know where the power came from, didn't understand what happened next. All she knew was that something inside her, something old and fierce and silver, woke up fully for the first time. Her wolf surged forward with a strength that dwarfed anything she'd felt before. The wolfsbane that should have been crippling her seemed to slide off her fur like water. Power radiated from her in waves, pushing back the smoke, pushing back the fear. When Alina howled, it wasn't the sound of a young wolf barely 4 days into her first shift. It was the sound of something ancient, something legendary. The entire battlefield went still. Every wolf, friend and foe alike, turned to stare at the small silver wolf standing in the center of the courtyard, glowing with an otherworldly light. And then Alina did something she didn't know was possible. She released an alpha command, "Stop." The word echoed not in sound but in power, slamming into every wolf present like a physical force. The mercenaries froze mid-attack. Even Kael's own guards went rigid, unable to disobey. Only Kael himself seemed unaffected, protected by his own alpha strength and the mate bond. Alina stood there, panting, as shocked as everyone else by what she'd just done. She'd commanded them. All of them. Dozens of wolves, and they'd all obeyed. Silver wolves weren't just stronger than other bloodlines. They were dominant, naturally more powerful than even most alphas. The realization terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. Marcus was the first to break free of her command. He shifted back to human form, naked and bleeding, his ankle twisted at an unnatural angle. "Kill her!" he screamed at the mercenaries. "Kill the silver bitch now!" But the mercenaries were already running. Whatever they'd been paid, it wasn't enough to face down a silver wolf. They fled through the broken gate, leaving their dead and wounded behind. Marcus tried to run too, but Kael shifted to human form and caught him by the throat, slamming him against the courtyard wall. "You led an attack on my fortress," Kael said, his voice deadly quiet. "Tried to kill my mate. Give me one reason I shouldn't rip your heart out right now." "Because Roderick will destroy you if you do," Marcus gasped, clawing uselessly at Kael's iron grip. "He has the Council's ear. He has allies you don't even know about. You kill me, and you start a war you can't win." "Maybe I don't care," Kael growled. "Wait," Alina said, shifting back to human form. Someone threw her a cloak, which she wrapped around herself gratefully. "Don't kill him, not yet." Kael looked at her questioningly. "He can testify," Alina said, walking closer despite her nakedness and injuries. "He knows everything, the poisoning, the frame job, the assassination attempt. Make him confess before the council." "I'll never testify against my alpha," Marcus spat. Alina smiled, and it was not a kind expression. "You will. Because the alternative is, I let Kael kill you slowly. And trust me, Beta Marcus, you don't want that." She reached out with that new power she'd discovered, that alpha dominance, and pressed it against Marcus's mind. Not a command, just pressure. Just a reminder of what she could do. Marcus's eyes went wide with fear. You're not normal. Even for a silver wolf, you're not." "No," Alina agreed. "I'm not. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to write down everything Roderick ordered you to do. Every crime, every conspiracy. And then you're going to stand before the High Council and repeat it all." "He'll kill me," Marcus whispered. "He'll try," Kael said. "But you'll be under my protection. Testify, and you live. Refuse, and he let the threat hang. Marcus was silent for a long moment. Then slowly, he nodded. I want immunity. Full pardon for my crimes. You'll get a fair trial, Kyle said. That's all I'll promise. Fine, Marcus said bitterly. Fine. I'll testify. But you have no idea what you're up against. Roderick isn't working alone. He has backers, powerful ones. Who? Alina demanded. Marcus laughed, the sound broken and edged with hysteria. You think Iron Ridge is the only pack that fears silver wolves? You think Roderick is the only alpha who'd rather see you dead than let you come into your full power? He shook his head. This conspiracy goes deeper than you know, girl. And when the truth comes out at that council meeting, he smiled despite his pain. It's going to tear the entire Northern Territories apart. Cale tightened his grip on Marcus's throat. Start talking. Now. Who else is involved? But before Marcus could answer, he convulsed. Blood poured from his mouth, and his eyes rolled back in his head. No! Kyle lowered him to the ground, but it was already too late. Marcus was choking, drowning in his own blood. Poison, Alina said, recognizing the symptoms. He had a failsafe, in case he was captured. Marcus's lips moved, trying to form words through the blood. Alina knelt beside him, leaning close to hear. Council member? Marcus gasped. One of the 7 traitor. Then he died. Kyle stood, fury and frustration radiating from him. One of the council members is working with Roderick. That's what he was trying to tell us. But which one? Alina asked. They stared at each other, the implication sinking in. In 3 days, they would stand before the High Council, and at least one person on that council wanted them dead. The attack had cost them 12 guards, the armory, and any illusion of safety. Worse, they'd lost their chance to get information from Marcus about the full scope of the conspiracy. That night, as healers tended to the wounded and workers repaired the damaged gate, Kyle called an emergency meeting with his inner circle. We can't stay here, Lara said bluntly. They found us once. They'll come again. Next time with more men, more weapons. Agreed, Theron said. We need to relocate, somewhere defensible until the council meeting. Where? Finian asked. Every stronghold in the territories has eyes. Roderick will find us wherever we go. Not if we go somewhere he can't follow, Kael said slowly. He looked at Alina. The Silver Peaks. Alina frowned. I've never heard of... Because they're forbidden, Theron interrupted. My lord, you can't be serious. No one has entered the Silver Peaks in centuries. The old magic there is too dangerous. What are the Silver Peaks? Alina asked. The ancestral home of the Silver Wolves, Kael explained. High in the northern mountains, protected by ancient wards. When your bloodline was hunted to extinction, the last Silver Wolves retreated there to die. The place is supposed to be cursed. Anyone who enters without silver blood dies within hours. But I have silver blood, Alina said. Exactly. The wards won't affect you. And if we're with you, if you're guiding us, we should be protected. Kael turned to the others. It's the one place Roderick and his allies can't reach us. We hole up there until the council meeting, prepare our case, and emerge only to testify. It's suicide, Lyra said. The stories about the Silver Peaks are just stories, Kael said firmly, meant to keep people away. But Alina changes everything. With her, we can access her ancestral home, find answers about her bloodline, maybe even find more evidence of why the Silver Wolves were hunted. Alina felt the weight of everyone's eyes on her. This was her choice, her bloodline, her ancestral home, her risk. How long would it take to get there? She asked. 2 days hard travel, Kael said. Through difficult terrain, we'd need to leave immediately. Then we leave at dawn, Alina decided. Take whoever can travel fast and fight if needed. The rest stay here to rebuild and defend the fortress. Nods around the table. The decision was made. They left before sunrise. Alina, Kael, Theron, Lyra, and Finian, plus 20 of Kael's best warriors. They traveled light and fast, pushing through the northern forest toward the distant mountains. By the second day, the terrain grew treacherous. Snow fell in thick sheets, and the temperature dropped until every breath burned. The warriors began to slow, struggling with the altitude and cold. But Alina felt stronger the higher they climbed. The air itself seemed to welcome her, to recognize her blood. When she shifted to wolf form, her silver fur seemed to glow brighter in the snow.
"We're close," Kyle said, reading an ancient map Finian had found in the archives. "The entrance should be just beyond that ridge." They crested the final peak and stopped, stunned. The silver peaks rose before them like a frozen cathedral. Massive spires of ice and stone thrust toward the sky, glittering in the sunlight. And between them, carved into the mountain itself, was a massive archway covered in runes that pulsed with silver light. "The entrance," Alina breathed. As they approached, the runes began to glow brighter. The air hummed with power, and Alina felt something pulling at her, calling to her in a language she didn't understand but somehow recognized. She walked forward, drawn to the archway. The moment she touched it, the runes blazed with blinding light. Then a voice spoke, not in sound but directly in her mind. "Silver daughter, last of the blessed bloodline, you have returned home." "Who are you?" Alina asked aloud. "We are the echoes, the memories of those who came before. Your ancestors wait within. Enter and learn the truth of what you are." The archway opened, revealing a tunnel of ice that glowed with its own internal light. Kyle came to stand beside her. "Are you sure about this?" Alina looked at the tunnel, then back at the man who'd saved her life, who'd given her a chance to become something more than the broken Omega everyone believed her to be. "No," she admitted, "but I'm doing it anyway." They entered together. The tunnel led deep into the mountain, spiraling downward into the heart of the peak. The ice walls showed images, memories frozen in time. Alina saw silver wolves running through ancient forests, saw them building cities, raising families, living in peace. Then the images turned dark. Fire and blood. Silver wolves hunted, killed, their bodies burned. Children torn from their parents, entire families slaughtered. "The purge," the echo voice whispered. 300 years ago, the other alphas decided silver wolves were too dangerous to exist, so they hunted us. Every last one. Or so they thought. "My parents," Alina said, understanding dawning, "they survived because they hid what they were." "Yes. They fled, changed their names, suppressed their wolves, lived as common pack members. And it worked for a time. Until you were born, and the silver showed in your fur. Then they knew they could hide no longer." "Roderick killed them," Alina said, tears streaming down her face. "He murdered them to get to me." "He did. And he has spent 23 years trying to finish what he started. But you survived, Silver Daughter. You survived, and you are stronger than any silver wolf who came before." The tunnel opened into a vast cavern, and in the center, frozen in a pillar of ice, was a massive silver wolf easily the size of Kyle's alpha form. "What is that?" Lyra whispered. "The last Silver Queen," the echo said. "She who led our people. She who held back the purge for years before finally falling. Her body was preserved here, along with her memories, her power, her knowledge. And now that power passes to you." "What?" Alina stepped closer to the frozen wolf. "I don't understand." "Touch the ice. Take what is yours by right of blood. Become what you were always meant to be." Alina looked at Kyle. He nodded, trust and love clear in his golden eyes. She placed her palm against the ice. Power exploded into her like lightning. Memories that weren't hers flooded her mind, centuries of history, knowledge, combat techniques, ancient magic. She saw the truth of her bloodline, understood why they were hunted, knew what she could become if she accepted this power. The ice shattered. The frozen wolf's body dissolved into pure energy, flowing into Alina in a torrent of silver light. She screamed as it overwhelmed her. As her body tried to contain power it was never meant to hold. But she didn't break. She adapted, grew, changed. When the light finally faded, Alina stood transformed. Not physically, she was still in human form. But something fundamental had shifted inside her. She could feel the power thrumming through her veins, vast and ancient and absolutely hers. "Alina?" Kale said carefully. She turned to face him, and her eyes were pure silver, glowing with internal light. "I know what I am now," she said, her voice layered with echoes of the Silver Queen who'd come before. "I know why they hunted us, why they feared us, why they wanted us extinct." "Why?"
Kael asked. Because silver wolves don't just submit to alphas, Alina said. We command them. We're born to rule over other wolves, to lead entire territories, to reshape the pack structure itself. She smiled, fierce and wild. The other alphas didn't hunt us because we were dangerous. They hunted us because we threatened their power, their dominance, their right to rule. Understanding dawned on Kael's face. You're not just my mate, you're a rival, Alina finished. By blood and birth, I'm meant to challenge you, to fight you for territory and dominance. That's why the mate bond between us is so strong, nature trying to bind together two beings who should be enemies. Silence fell over the group. The implications were staggering. What do we do? Theron asked quietly. Alina looked at Kael, this man who'd saved her, protected her, fought beside her. The man she loved despite knowing him less than 2 weeks. We changed the rules, she said. No more alphas versus silver wolves. No more old rivalries. We stand together, rule together, show them a new way. The council will never accept it, Lyra said. Then we make them, Alina said, silver eyes blazing. In 2 days, we stand before the High Council, and we show them exactly what a silver wolf can do. Kael stepped forward and took her hands. Are you sure? This power, I can feel it radiating from you. You could walk away right now, start your own pack, rule your own territory. You don't need me. You're right, Alina said. I don't need you, but I choose you, just like you chose me. She pulled him close and kissed him, fierce and claiming. The mate bond flared between them, and this time it was equal. Two dominant forces finding balance instead of one submitting to the other. When they broke apart, Kael was smiling. The council is going to lose their minds. Good, Alina said. Let them. It's time the old order burned. They spent the night in the cavern, resting and preparing. Alina practiced with her new power, learning to control it, to channel it without overwhelming herself or others. Kael worked with her, teaching her the nuances of alpha command, showing her how to lead instead of just dominate. As dawn approached, they prepared to leave the Silver Peaks, to return to civilization and face the council. But as they walked back through the tunnel toward the entrance, Finian suddenly stopped. Wait, he said, examining one of the ice walls. There's something here, a message carved into the ice. Alina came closer. The writing was in an ancient script, but somehow she could read it now. The Silver Queen's knowledge translating automatically. Beware the seventh seat, the wolf who wears two faces. The traitor walks among the highest, and their betrayal will drown the territories in blood. The seventh seat, Kael said grimly. The High Council has 7 members. This is warning us about... The traitor Marcus mentioned, Alina finished. One of the council members is working with Roderick, has been all along. But which one? Lyra demanded. They stared at the message, its implications chilling. In less than 48 hours, they would stand before the High Council, and one of those council members wanted them dead. One of the 7 most powerful alphas in the territories was a traitor, and they had no idea which one. We need to be ready for anything, Kael said. When we go before that council, we assume everyone is an enemy until proven otherwise. How do we fight that? Theron asked. If we can't trust the council, we trust ourselves, Alina interrupted. She felt the power thrumming inside her, vast and fierce. We walk in there with the truth, with evidence, with witnesses, and we dare them to deny us. And if they try to kill us anyway? Finian asked. Alina's eyes blazed silver. Then they find out exactly why the silver wolves were hunted to extinction. Not because we were weak, but because we were unstoppable. They emerged from the Silver Peaks into morning light. The journey back would take 2 days. The council meeting was scheduled for dawn on the 3rd day. 48 hours to prepare, to plan, to get ready for the fight of their lives. As they descended the mountain, none of them noticed the lone wolf watching from a distant ridge. A wolf who'd tracked them all the way to the Silver Peaks, who'd seen Alina emerge changed, powerful, dangerous. The wolf turned and ran, racing back toward Iron Ridge territory to report what it had seen. By nightfall, Roderick would know, and by dawn the next day, every alpha in the Northern Territories would know the truth. The Silver Wolves had returned. The hunt was about to begin all over again. The spy reached Iron Ridge by midnight, shifting to human form in Roderick's private chambers, where the Alpha waited with 3 other figures cloaked in shadow. The scout's report was breathless, urgent. She went into the Silver Peaks and came out changed. Her eyes were glowing silver, my lord. The ancient power, it's real. She's awakened it. One of the cloaked figures stepped forward. You're certain? The girl actually accessed the old magic? I saw it myself, the scout insisted. The whole mountain lit up like a beacon when she emerged. Whatever she was before, she's something else now, something dangerous. Roderick dismissed the scout with a wave and turned to his shadowy allies. This changes nothing. She's still one wolf against an entire council. Power means nothing without the authority to wield it. She has Kael Draven's support, one of the figures said. The voice was female, cultured, and carried the weight of long authority. That's not insignificant.
Draven is besotted, Roderick sneered, blind to everything but the mate bond. He's made himself vulnerable. When we move against her at the council meeting, he'll defend her, and in doing so, he'll expose himself. What about Marcus? Asked another figure, male this time. He failed to kill them, and now he's dead. His body was found by our people. Poison, just as we planned if he was captured. But if he talked before he died, he didn't have time, Roderick said confidently.
The failsafe worked exactly as designed. They learned nothing. But the third cloaked figure remained silent, and something about that silence made Roderick uneasy. Meanwhile, racing through the night toward the council citadel, Alina and Kael pushed their group to the limit. They had less than 36 hours before the hearing, and every mile felt like it carried them closer to either vindication or death. Alina rode beside Kael, her mind still reeling from the transformation in the Silver Peaks. The Silver Queen's memories were a constant presence now, whispering knowledge and warnings. She knew things she shouldn't know, ancient pack histories, forgotten fighting techniques, the true nature of wolf hierarchy. Most importantly, she understood the political landscape they were walking into far better than before. The council members, Alina said to Kael as they rode. Tell me about each of them again. Everything you know. Kael glanced at her, noting the sharpness in her silver eyes. Helena Frost of Winter Clans. Old blood, traditional but fair. She values strength and honor above politics. She'll respect what I've become, Alina said, the Silver Queen's tactical mind analyzing. If I can prove my power without seeming like a threat to her territory. Cassia Redwood of Southern Forests, Kael continued. Moderate, diplomatic. She prefers negotiation to conflict, but can be swayed by strong arguments. Potentially an ally if we present the evidence correctly, Alina mused. Who else? Dmitry Volkov of Eastern Steppes. Brutal, pragmatic, respects only strength. He won't care about justice or fairness, only power. Then we show him power, Alina said simply. When he challenges me, I don't back down. I meet him head on. Kael looked worried. Alina, Dmitry isn't someone to antagonize. He controls the largest military force in the territories. And I'm a silver wolf who just inherited 3 centuries of combat knowledge, Alina countered. Trust me, Kael. I know how to handle men like Dmitry. What about Isabeau Nightshade? Lyra asked from behind them. She seemed sympathetic at the last meeting. Isabeau is clever, Kael said. She plays the long game. If she's supporting us, it's because she sees an advantage in it. Or because she recognizes that the old order is crumbling and wants to be on the right side when it falls, Alina said. Either way, she's likely to vote in our favor if we give her good reason. That's 4 potential allies, Theron calculated. Helena, Cassia, Dmitry, if you can impress him, and Isabeau. Add your vote, my lord, and we have 5. That's a majority. Except one of them is a traitor, Finian reminded them darkly. Working with Roderick, we don't know which one. Silence fell over the group. The warning from the Silver Peaks haunted them. Beware the 7th seat, the wolf who wears 2 faces. Could be any of them, Lyra said, even the ones who seem friendly. Not Isabeau, Kael said with certainty. I've known her for a century. She's ambitious, but she's not a traitor. You're sure? Alina asked. As sure as I can be about anyone. Then we assume the traitor is one of the others, Alina said. Helena, Cassia, or Dmitry. We watch them carefully. Look for any sign that they're coordinating with Roderick. What about Aldrich Stone? Theron asked. You haven't mentioned him.
Desert packs, Kael said dismissively. Aldrich rarely gets involved in northern politics. He'll likely abstain from voting altogether. But something in Alina's new memories sparked at that name. Aldrich Stone. The desert packs. Something the Silver Queen had known. Something important. No, Alina said slowly. Aldrich won't abstain. He can't. Because 300 years ago, the desert packs were the ones who provided the silver needed to forge the chains that bound the last Silver Queen. Everyone turned to stare at her. The purge of silver wolves, Alina continued, the memories flooding back. It wasn't just the northern alphas. Every territory participated, and the desert packs had access to special silver, blessed silver, they called it. Silver that could actually restrain a silver wolf's power. They forged it into chains, shackles, weapons, sold it to the other alphas for a fortune. How do you know this? Finian asked. The Silver Queen's memories, Alina said. They're in me now, all of them. And I remember Aldrich Stone's ancestor standing over the Queen as she died, counting the silver coins he'd been paid for his betrayal. Kael's expression darkened. If the desert packs profited from the purge, then Aldrich has every reason to want you dead. Your existence reminds everyone of what his family did. More than that, Alina said, if I reveal the truth about the desert pack's role in the genocide, it could destroy his standing on the council. He has the most to lose for my survival. Then Aldrich is our traitor, Lyra said. Maybe, Alina said, or maybe it's someone else entirely, and this is what they want us to think. We can't know for certain, so we prepare for every possibility. They rode through the night and most of the next day, finally reaching the council citadel as the sun began to set. The massive fortress was already packed with wolves from every territory, all gathered to witness what promised to be the most dramatic council session in decades. Word had spread. The Wolf King's mysterious mate, the Omega who'd survived the Widow's ravine, the girl accused of treason who'd somehow transformed into a silver wolf. Everyone wanted to see what would happen. As Alina dismounted in the citadel courtyard, she felt hundreds of eyes on her. Wolves whispered and pointed. Some looked curious, others hostile. A few seemed genuinely afraid. Good, Alina thought. Let them fear. Let them wonder. It would make what came next even more effective. They were given chambers to prepare for the morning's hearing. Kael immediately called his allies, arranging last-minute meetings, shoring up support. Finian distributed copies of Elena's journal to key council members, planting seeds of doubt about Roderick's version of events. Alina spent the evening in a different kind of preparation. She stood before a mirror studying her reflection. The girl who'd been thrown into the ravine 3 weeks ago was gone. In her place stood someone harder, sharper, dangerous. Her green eyes had silver flecks in them now, remnants of the power she'd claimed. Her posture was different, shoulders back, chin high, the bearing of someone who expected to be obeyed. She looked like a queen. Second thoughts? Kael asked, entering the room quietly. No, Alina said. Just acknowledging how much has changed. A month ago, I was nobody, nothing. And tomorrow, I'm going to stand before the most powerful alphas in the territories and demand they acknowledge me as their equal. You are their equal, Kael said, coming to stand behind her. His hands settled on her shoulders, warm and reassuring. More than equal. You're what they've feared for 3 centuries. I know, Alina said softly. That's what worries me. Roderick tried to kill me when I was powerless. What will he do now that I'm dangerous? He'll try again, Kael said honestly. But this time, you're ready for him. This time you're not alone. Alina turned to face him, studying the man who'd changed her entire world. Why did you save me? Really? It wasn't just the mate bond. You felt that after you'd already pulled me from the ravine. Kael was quiet for a moment, choosing his words carefully. I saved you because when I saw you lying broken in that snow, when I saw what they'd done to you, I was angry, furious in a way I hadn't felt in centuries. You were pack-born. You deserved protection, even if you were weak, and they'd thrown you away like garbage. His golden eyes blazed. It was wrong, cruel, and I've spent 300 years trying to build a world where strength doesn't mean the right to brutalize the weak. You were proof I'd failed, so I saved you, thinking it would be a small thing, a moment of mercy.
And then you discovered I was your mate, Alina said. And then I discovered you were so much more than anyone realized, Kyle corrected. The mate bond just confirmed what I was already feeling, that you were important, special, worth fighting for. Alina kissed him, pouring all her gratitude and love and fear into it. When they broke apart, she rested her forehead against his. Tomorrow changes everything, she whispered. I know, Kyle said. Are you ready? I have to be. They spent the night going over strategy, preparing arguments, anticipating counterattacks. By the time dawn arrived, Alina felt as ready as she'd ever be. The council chamber was packed. Every seat in the gallery was filled with wolves standing shoulder to shoulder along the walls. The 7 council members sat in their thrones, Roderick looking smug, Helena neutral, Cassia concerned, Dimitri bored, Isabeau watchful, Aldrich stone-faced, and Kyle tense. Alina stood in the center of the chamber, alone. Kale had argued to stand beside her, but she'd insisted. This was her fight, her chance to prove herself. This emergency session of the High Council is called to order, Helena Frost announced, her voice cutting through the murmurs. Alpha Roderick Hale has formally accused King Kale Draven of sovereignty violation and kidnapping. How does the accused respond? Kale stood. I deny the charges. The individual I'm accused of kidnapping was a willing witness who provided testimony freely. No force was used. Liar, Roderick said coldly. Beta Marcus led a rescue mission to retrieve a kidnapped pack member from your territory. He died in the attempt, poisoned by your people to silence him. Marcus died from a fail-safe poison that you gave him, Kyle shot back, to ensure he couldn't reveal your crimes if captured, which he did anyway, before the poison took effect. We have his confession. That caused an uproar. Wolves shouted questions, accusations flying back and forth. Order, Helena commanded. Does anyone else have evidence to present? I do, Alina said, her voice carrying clearly despite not being raised. The silver undertone of power in it made everyone fall silent. She walked forward and held up Elena's journal. This is the personal record of Elena Cross, healer of Iron Ridge Pack. It documents 23 years of Alpha Roderick's orders. Orders to poison me weekly with wolfsbane. Orders to suppress my wolf. Orders to keep me weak and powerless. She opened the journal to a marked page and read aloud. Year 7, month 3. Alpha says increased dosage. Subject showing signs of resistance. Must ensure the silver blood never awakens. Alina looked up at the council. The silver blood. He knew what I was from childhood, and he spent 2 decades trying to destroy it. Forgery, Roderick said, but there was a tremor in his voice now. That journal is fake. Elena would never... Elena is here, Kyle said. We brought her under protection. She's waiting outside, ready to testify to everything in that journal. Roderick's face went white. You brought a pack member here against her will? She came willingly, Alina interrupted, after you tried to have her killed for talking to us. She's terrified of you, Roderick, just like you wanted, just like you've kept everyone in Iron Ridge terrified for years. This is absurd, Roderick snarled, rising from his throne. You stand here, a girl who couldn't shift until 3 weeks ago, and claim to be some legendary silver wolf? You expect us to believe I expect you to see the truth, Alina said. And then she shifted. The transformation was instant, fluid, and absolutely stunning. One moment she stood in human form, the next she was a silver wolf glowing with internal light. But she didn't stop there. She released her power. Alpha dominance flooded the chamber, vast and ancient and overwhelming. It crashed over the assembled wolves like a tidal wave. Lesser wolves dropped to their knees immediately, unable to resist. Even some of the stronger ones bowed their heads, instinct overriding will. The council members resisted, their own alpha strength protecting them. But Alina could see the shock on their faces, feel their recognition of what she was. Helena Frost stood, her eyes wide. A silver wolf. A real one. I thought they were extinct. They were, Alina said, shifting back to human form. Hunted to extinction 300 years ago by alphas who feared their power. Alphas like Roderick, who recognized my bloodline as a child and spent my entire life trying to ensure I never became what I was born to be. Why? Cassia asked. Why would he fear a child? Because silver wolves don't submit to alphas, Alina said. We're dominant by nature.
Born to lead, to rule, to challenge the established order. My existence threatened everything Roderick had built. His authority, his control, his absolute power over Iron Ridge. She turned to face him directly. So you killed my parents, poisoned me, framed me for treason, and when that failed, you tried to have me assassinated, all to protect your throne from a girl you kept deliberately weak. Lies, Roderick said, but he was sweating now. All lies. She has no proof. Marcus confessed, Kael said. Before he died, he told us about the conspiracy, about the council member helping you. Every eye in the chamber turned to the 7 thrones. The council members looked at each other with sudden suspicion. What conspiracy? Dimitri demanded. Someone on this council has been working with Roderick, Alina said, helping him cover up his crimes, ensuring the votes went his way. We don't know who yet, but they're here, sitting among you, pretending to uphold justice while enabling murder. The chamber erupted in chaos, council members shouting denials, wolves in the gallery talking over each other, accusations flying. And then a new voice cut through it all. Enough! Everyone turned. Aldrich Stone had stood, his craggy face unreadable. I have something to say. Silence fell. Aldrich looked at Alina, and for a moment she saw something in his eyes. Was it guilt? Regret? 300 years ago, Aldrich said slowly, my great-grandfather participated in the purge of silver wolves. The desert packs provided the blessed silver used to chain and kill them. We profited from genocide. He paused, the admission clearly painful. I have lived my entire life with that shame, knowing my family's wealth was built on the bones of innocence. The chamber was utterly silent now. When Roderick came to me 5 years ago, Aldrich continued, and told me there was a silver wolf child in his pack, He closed his eyes. I should have protected her, should have demanded he spare her, to atone for what my ancestors did. Instead, I told him to handle it quietly, to ensure she never became a threat. Alina felt like she'd been punched in the gut. Aldrich. The traitor was Aldrich. I didn't know he was poisoning her, Aldrich said quickly. Didn't know the extent of his cruelty. I thought he would just keep her as a normal Omega, let her live a quiet life. I didn't realize... He looked at Alina, and there were tears in his eyes. I didn't realize what I was condemning you to. What you suffered because of my cowardice. You enabled him, Alina said, her voice shaking. You knew what I was, and you let him destroy me. I did, Aldrich said, and I will carry that shame to my grave, but I will not let it continue. He turned to the other council members. I vote to overturn Alina Crow's exile, to clear her of all charges, and to investigate Roderick Hale for attempted murder, conspiracy, and abuse of alpha authority. You can't, Roderick started. I second that motion, Helena said firmly. A silver wolf has returned. The old crimes must be answered for. Third, Isabeau said. Fourth, Cassia added quietly. That was 4 votes, a majority. Alina was vindicated, but Roderick wasn't done. You think this changes anything? You think because she can shift, because she has some ancient power that makes her better than me? Than any of us? He laughed, the sound bitter and unhinged. She's a threat, an abomination, just like her bloodline was 3 centuries ago. That's why they were hunted. That's why they had to die. Because they were stronger than you, Alina said quietly. Because they made you feel weak, small, powerless. Everything you've made me feel my entire life. They were dangerous. We were peaceful, Alina interrupted, the Silver Queen's memories giving her the truth. The Silver Wolves never wanted to rule, never sought to dominate. We just wanted to exist, to live freely. But you couldn't allow that, could you? Couldn't bear the thought that someone might be naturally stronger than you without having to fight for it. She walked toward Roderick's throne, and he actually flinched back. So you killed us, Alina continued. Every last one. Men, women, children. You hunted us across continents, burned our homes, slaughtered our families, and you called it justice, called it necessary, called it protecting the pack structure. We were protecting our people. You were protecting your egos, Alina snarled, your pride, your fragile sense of superiority. And when you couldn't find any more silver wolves to kill, you rewrote history, made us into monsters in the stories, made yourselves into heroes for committing genocide.
Is this true? Helena demanded, looking at the other older council members. Is this the real reason for the purge?
Aldrich nodded slowly.
Yes. The official story was that silver wolves were unstable, dangerous. But the truth, he sighed, the truth is we feared them, feared their power, their dominance. We couldn't control them, so we eliminated them. The admission hung in the air like a curse. Dmitri stood, his expression thunderous. You're telling me we've been living with a lie for 3 centuries, that the purge was nothing but fear and pride? Yes, Alina said. And Roderick knew it. That's why he tried so hard to destroy me. Because if I lived, if I came into my power, the truth would come out. The lie would be exposed. She turned to address the entire chamber, her voice ringing with authority. I am Alina Crow, last daughter of the Silver Bloodline. I am the proof that you failed, that genocide cannot erase truth, that power born of fear and hatred cannot stand against power born of justice and love. Her eyes blazed silver. And I am here to tell you that the old order is over. No more purges, no more hunting those who are different, no more killing those who threaten your dominance. And what would you have us do instead? Dmitri asked, but there was respect in his voice now. Submit to you? Acknowledge you as our superior? No, Alina said firmly. I would have you do something far more difficult. I would have you treat me as an equal. Not because I'm stronger than you, though I am. Not because I'm more powerful, though I may be, but because equality isn't about strength or dominance. It's about recognizing the inherent worth in every wolf, regardless of bloodline or ability. She looked at Kael, who was watching her with pride and love in his golden eyes. I was the weakest Omega in my pack, Alina continued, powerless, worthless, broken. And I was still a person, still deserving of protection, of dignity, of a chance to live. Roderick couldn't see that. He saw only what I might become, and he tried to destroy it. But King Kael, she smiled. He saw a wolf dying in the snow and saved her anyway, not knowing she was his mate, not knowing she had silver blood. He saved me because it was the right thing to do. How touching, Roderick sneered. A pretty speech about equality from someone who just demonstrated overwhelming dominance over everyone in this room. You're a hypocrite, girl, just like every silver wolf who came before you. No, Kael said, standing. She's what you could never be, Roderick. Someone strong enough to choose mercy over domination. Someone powerful enough to demand equality instead of submission. He walked to stand beside Alina, taking her hand. And she's my mate, my equal, my partner in ruling the Western Territories. Anyone who threatens her threatens me. And me, Helena said, standing. And me, Isabeau echoed. One by one, the council members stood. Helena, Isabeau, Cassia, even Dmitri and Aldrich. Only Roderick remained seated, isolated, his face twisted with rage. You're fools, he spat. All of you, she'll destroy everything we've built, tear down the pack structure, make us weak.
The only thing I'll destroy, Alina said quietly, is the lie you've been living, the lie that strength comes from dominating others. That power requires cruelty. That leadership means ruling through fear. She released Kael's hand and walked to stand directly in front of Roderick's throne. You are hereby removed from the High Council, she said, and though she had no official authority to make that declaration, the power in her voice made it undeniable. Your territory will be held in trust until a new alpha can be chosen by the Iron Ridge Pack, and you will stand trial for murder, conspiracy, and crimes against the Silver Bloodline. You can't do this, Roderick said, but there was desperation in his voice now. The council hasn't voted. I call for a vote, Helena said. All in favor of removing Alpha Roderick Hale from his position and putting him on trial? Every hand went up except Roderick's own. Motion carried, Helena said with satisfaction. Roderick Hale, you are under arrest. Guards moved to restrain him. Roderick fought, snarling and snapping, but there were too many. They dragged him from the chamber as he screamed threats and curses. When he was gone, silence fell over the council. Helena looked at Alina with something like awe. What happens now? Now, Alina said, we rebuild. We create something better. A council that represents all wolves, not just the strong. Pack laws that protect everyone, not just those with power.
A future where no child has to live in fear because of what they were born to be. Ambitious, Dmitri said, but he was smiling slightly. You realize this will take decades, centuries perhaps. Then it's a good thing I have a very long life ahead of me, Alina said. She turned to face the assembled crowd, all the wolves who'd come to watch her be condemned and had instead witnessed the fall of a corrupt alpha and the rise of something new. The silver wolves have returned, Alina said, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. Not to dominate you, not to rule over you, but to stand beside you as equals, as partners in building a better world for all our people. The chamber erupted in cheers. Not everyone, some wolves still looked afraid or hostile. But enough. Enough to know that change was possible. Kyle pulled Alina into his arms, and she buried her face in his chest, suddenly overwhelmed. It was over. She'd won. She'd proven herself, exposed Roderick, cleared her name. You were magnificent, Kale murmured into her hair. Absolutely magnificent. I was terrified, Alina admitted. So was I, Kale confessed. But you didn't let it control you. You stood there and faced down the most powerful alphas in the territories without flinching. That's true strength, Alina. Not your silver blood, not your dominance, your courage. Alina pulled back to look at him. What happens now? We've dismantled Roderick, but there will be others who fear what I represent, who want to finish what the purge started. Then we deal with them, Kyle said simply. Together. You and me, changing the world one stubborn alpha at a time. Alina laughed despite herself. That sounds exhausting. It will be, Kyle agreed, but think of how much fun we'll have doing it. As they left the council chamber, walking side by side through corridors lined with staring wolves, Alina felt something she'd never experienced before. Hope. Real, genuine hope that maybe the world could be better. That maybe she could help make it so. She was no longer the powerless Omega thrown into a ravine. She was Alina Crow, Silver Wolf, mate to a king, and the beginning of a new era. And she was just getting started. But the victory celebration was short-lived. That night, as Alina and Kyle returned to their chambers in the Citadel, Finian burst through the door, his face pale with urgency. We have a problem, he said without preamble. A major one. Roderick escaped. Kale was on his feet instantly. How? Someone helped him. Guards were found unconscious at his holding cell. The locks were opened from the outside. Finian's expression was grim. He had help from inside the Citadel. Someone with authority. The conspiracy goes deeper than we thought, Alina said, ice forming in her stomach. Aldrich confessed, but he wasn't the only one working with Roderick. There's more, Finian continued. Before he escaped, Roderick sent messages. We intercepted one going to the Iron Ridge Pack, calling all loyal wolves to arms. He's gathering his supporters. For what? Kale demanded. War, Theron said, entering behind Finian. He's calling it a defensive action against foreign interference, claiming you've kidnapped their alpha, that the council has been compromised by Silver Wolf magic, that the old bloodlines are under attack. Alina felt the weight of it settling over her. He's turning this into a crusade, making himself the victim, me, the villain. Exactly, Theron said. And it's working. We're getting reports of packs mobilizing across the northern territories. Not all of them, but enough. Wolves who believe the old stories about silver wolves being dangerous. Wolves who fear change. How many? Kyle asked. At least 300 warriors, Finian said. Possibly more. They're gathering at the Iron Ridge stronghold, preparing for a siege. Kale's face hardened. Then we meet them with force. I'll call my armies. No, Alina interrupted. Both men turned to stare at her. If we respond with military force, we prove Roderick right. We become the aggressors. The dangerous Silver Wolf and her attack dog king, crushing anyone who opposes them. Then what do you suggest? Kyle asked. Let Roderick gather an army and attack us? I suggest we go to Iron Ridge, Alina said. Not with an army, just us. Me, you, and a small guard. We walk into Roderick's stronghold, and we face his wolves directly. That's suicide, Theron protested. It's the only way, Alina insisted. These wolves following Roderick, they're not evil, they're scared. They've been fed lies their whole lives about what silver wolves are, what we represent. They need to see the truth. They need to see me standing before them, not as a conqueror, but as someone willing to talk, to listen, to prove I'm not the monster they've been told to fear. They'll kill you the moment you walk through those gates, Lyra said, having joined the gathering. You're asking us to walk into a hostile fortress with hundreds of enemy wolves and hope they'll just listen? Yes, Alina said simply, because the alternative is war, real war, thousands dead, the territories torn apart, everything we just achieved at the council destroyed. She looked at Kael. You said you wanted to build a world where strength doesn't mean the right to brutalize the weak. This is how we do it. We choose dialogue over domination, peace over power. Kael was silent for a long moment, his golden eyes searching hers. Finally, he nodded. If this is what you want, then we do it together. But I'm bringing enough guards to ensure if things go wrong, we can fight our way out. Fair enough, Alina agreed. They left at dawn. Alina, Kael, Theron, Lyra, and 20 of Kyle's best warriors. The journey to Iron Ridge territory took 2 days, and with every mile, Alina felt the weight of what she was attempting. She was walking back into the place that had condemned her, tortured her, tried to kill her, the place where she'd spent 23 years being told she was worthless. And she was going to try to save it. As they approached the Iron Ridge stronghold, they could see Roderick's army assembled. Hundreds of wolves in both human and wolf form, filling the grounds, watching their approach with hostile eyes. Last chance to turn back, Kael murmured. Not a chance, Alina said. They stopped at the main gate. A wall of wolves blocked their path, snarling and snapping. Alina could see Roderick standing on the battlements above, his face twisted with rage and something like madness. You dare come here, he shouted. After what you've done? After you've poisoned the council against me, turned my own wolves against their alpha? I came to talk, Alina called back, to offer you a chance to end this peacefully. Peacefully? Roderick laughed. There is no peace with your kind. There never was. The old alphas knew that. That's why they hunted you to extinction, because you're parasites, threats, abominations that have to be destroyed before you can corrupt everything pure about our way of life. I'm not here to corrupt anything, Alina said. I'm here to offer truth, to give these wolves a choice. She turned to address the assembled army, raising her voice so everyone could hear. I am Alina Crow. Many of you knew me. The weak Omega who couldn't shift, the girl you mocked, ignored, dismissed. Some of you were kind to me. Most of you weren't. But I don't hold that against you because you were taught that strength was everything. That power was the only thing that mattered. That anyone who couldn't fight, couldn't dominate, was worthless. Murmurs ran through the crowd. She could see some wolves she recognized, young ones she'd helped teach to read, elderly ones she'd brought food to. Their faces showed confusion, uncertainty. Roderick told you I was dangerous, Alina continued, that my silver blood made me a threat. And you know what? He was right. I am dangerous, but not in the way he claimed. She shifted, letting her silver wolf emerge in all its glowing magnificence. The assembled wolves gasped, some stepping back. I'm dangerous because I represent change, Alina said, her voice carrying despite being in wolf form, the alpha power making her words clear. I'm dangerous because I survived what should have killed me, because I proved that the weak can become strong, that the powerless can find power, that the broken can be made whole again. She shifted back to human form, standing naked and unashamed before the army. But most of all, I'm dangerous because I'm proof that Roderick lied. About me. About my parents, who he murdered when I was 5 years old. About the silver wolves who were peaceful people slaughtered out of fear and greed. About the very foundation of pack law he's used to justify his cruelty. Lies! Roderick screamed from the battlements. All lies! She's using her power to manipulate you, to cloud your minds. Then let me prove it, Alina interrupted. She looked up at Roderick. You and me, one-on-one. No armies, no guards. Just two wolves fighting for the truth. If you win, your supporters go free. If I win, they hear my story without your interference. Do you accept? The entire stronghold fell silent. Roderick stared down at her, clearly torn. He knew he was a powerful alpha, experienced in combat. But he'd also seen what she'd done at the council, felt the weight of her dominance. "You're scared," Alina said softly, but the words carried. "You're terrified that in a fair fight you'll lose, that everyone will see you're not the powerful alpha you pretend to be, that you're just a coward who poisons children and murders families because you're too weak to face real threats." That did it. Roderick's face flushed with rage. "I accept. And when I kill you, Silver Wolf, your mate will watch you die just like you watched your parents die." "I was 5, Alina said coldly. "I don't remember it. But you do, don't you? You remember their screams, their pleas to spare their daughter. You remember murdering them in cold blood and then spending the next 18 years slowly poisoning that daughter to ensure she never became strong enough to avenge them." Roderick shifted to his massive brown wolf form and leaped from the battlements, landing in the clearing they'd created. He was huge, easily twice Alina's size, scarred from decades of battles. Alina shifted to meet him, her silver fur gleaming in the morning sun. They circled each other, two alphas sizing up their opponent. The assembled wolves formed a ring around them, wolf and human alike watching with bated breath. Roderick attacked first, using his size advantage to try to overwhelm her. He was fast for his bulk, teeth snapping at her throat. Alina dodged, using her smaller size to stay mobile. She'd spent her entire life being underestimated because she was small. Now she'd use it as a weapon. The Silver Queen's memories guided her, centuries of combat experience flowing through her movements. She knew techniques Roderick had never seen, strategies from before his time. When he lunged, she wasn't where he expected. When he tried to pin her, she slipped away like smoke. But Roderick was experienced too, and crafty. He feinted left, then caught her with a vicious swipe to her side. Alina yelped as his claws tore through fur and flesh, blood spattering the ground. The assembled wolves gasped. Some of Roderick's supporters cheered. Alina staggered, pain lancing through her ribs. Roderick pressed his advantage, slamming into her with his full weight. They went down in a tangle of fur and teeth, rolling across the blood-stained ground. Roderick's jaws closed around her throat, and for a moment Alina felt the ghost of that night in the ravine, the certainty of death, the cold acceptance of ending. But she wasn't that powerless Omega anymore. Silver light exploded from Alina's body, a pulse of pure dominance that sent Roderick flying backward. He hit the ground hard, stunned, and Alina was on him before he could recover. Her teeth found his throat, and she bit down just hard enough to draw blood. Not killing, just restraining, making her point. Roderick went still beneath her, recognizing defeat. Alina held him there for a long moment, letting every wolf in that clearing see their former alpha pinned by the girl they'd called worthless. Then she released him and stepped back, shifting to human form. "I could kill you," she said quietly. "It would be justice. For my parents, for every day of suffering you put me through. For every child you've hurt, every wolf you've abused, every life you've destroyed with your cruelty." She looked around at the assembled wolves, making eye contact with as many as she could. "But I won't. Because I'm not you, Roderick. I don't rule through fear or violence. I don't kill just because I can." She turned back to him. "You're going to stand trial for your crimes. Face real justice, not the twisted version you've been dispensing for decades. And these wolves," she gestured to his army, "they're going to choose for themselves what happens next. No more forced loyalty, no more following orders out of terror. They're free." Roderick shifted back to human form, blood streaming from his throat wound. "You think you've won? You think this changes anything? They'll never accept you, never trust you. You're a silver wolf and they'll always fear what you represent." "Maybe," Alina said. "But fear can be overcome. Trust can be earned. And change, real change, starts with one person choosing to be better." She turned to address the crowd again. "I know many of you followed Roderick because you truly believed he was protecting you, because you believed the stories about silver wolves being dangerous. And I can't blame you for that. Those stories have been told for 300 years. They've become truth through repetition." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "But I'm asking you now to question that truth. To look at me, really look at me, and decide for yourselves what you see. Do you see a monster? A threat? An abomination?" She spread her arms wide. "Or do you see a wolf who survived the worst you could do to her and came back anyway, not seeking revenge, but seeking peace? A voice called out from the crowd. An elderly woman Alina recognized. She'd been one of the pack's teachers, someone who'd occasionally shown Alina kindness. "I see someone who helped my grandchildren learn to read," the woman said, her voice shaking. "Someone who brought me food when I was too sick to hunt. Someone who was kind when kindness wasn't required." Another voice joined her, a young male wolf. "I see the girl who took a beating meant for me because I was too small to fight back. I see the Omega who nursed wounded wolves, even though they mocked her for being weak," said a middle-aged woman. One by one, wolves began speaking up. Not all of them. Many remained silent, still uncertain. But enough. Enough to show that Alina's years of quiet kindness, of helping others despite her own suffering, had not gone unnoticed. "She was powerless then," someone shouted. "Now she's dangerous. Who's to say she won't turn on us?" "Because she already had the power to kill Roderick and chose mercy instead," Kael said, speaking for the first time. He walked to stand beside Alina, placing a hand on her shoulder. "She could have destroyed him. Could destroy all of you if she wanted, but she doesn't want power over you. She wants partnership with you. Equality." "Pretty words from a king," someone sneered. "Then judge me by my actions," Alina said. "I'm offering Iron Ridgepack a choice. Continue following Roderick's legacy of fear and cruelty, or choose a new path. Choose new leadership from among your own people, someone you trust, someone who will lead with honor instead of terror. I won't rule you, won't claim your territory. I'm not here to conquer. I'm here to free you from the alpha who's been crushing you for decades." She could see the idea taking root. Wolves looking at each other, whispering, considering. "And Roderick?" someone asked. "What happens to him?" "He stands trial before the High Council," Alina said. "Answers for his crimes. Faces real justice." "No!" Roderick suddenly lunged at Alina, shifting mid-leap, going for her throat one final time. But Kael was faster. He shifted and intercepted Roderick in midair, the two massive wolves colliding with bone-breaking force. They hit the ground in a snarling tangle, and this time there was no restraint in Kael's attack. He was defending his mate, and nothing would stop him. Within seconds, it was over. Kael's jaws closed around Roderick's throat and crushed. The former alpha's body went limp, lifeless. Kael shifted back to human form, standing over Roderick's corpse. "He made his choice," he said simply. The assembled wolves stared in stunned silence. Their alpha was dead. The wolf who'd ruled them through fear and violence for decades was gone. "What happens now?" the elderly teacher asked. "Now," Alina said, "you choose. Gather your pack, discuss among yourselves, and select new leadership, someone you trust, someone who will lead with honor. And when you're ready, send word to the High Council, and your new alpha will be officially recognized." "And if we choose badly," someone asked, "if our new alpha turns out to be like Roderick?" "Then we remove them," Helena Frost said, stepping forward from where she'd been observing at the edge of the crowd. The council member had followed them, along with Isabeau and Cassia, wanting to witness what happened. "The council will be watching, all of us. This isn't just about Iron Ridge anymore. This is about changing how we do things across all territories. No more alphas who rule through fear. No more abuse of power." "That's a nice dream," someone said skeptically. "But how do you enforce it?" "With this," Alina said, and she released just a fraction of her alpha power, letting it wash over the crowd. Not commanding, just reminding them what she was capable of. "I am the first silver wolf to survive in 300 years. I am proof that the old order can be challenged, that change is possible. And I will spend the rest of my very long life ensuring that no wolf ever has to suffer what I suffered. That no child is poisoned, no Omega is abused, no pack member is thrown away because they're deemed worthless." She let the power fade, becoming just a small woman standing in a circle of hundreds of larger wolves. "But I can't do it alone," she continued. "I need allies. Packs willing to try something new. Wolves brave enough to question the way things have always been. So I'm asking you, Iron Ridge Pack, my former pack, will you be first? Will you choose a new path and show the other territories that change is possible?" The silence stretched. Alina could feel the weight of hundreds of eyes on her, judging, evaluating, deciding. Then the elderly teacher stepped forward. "I'll support this. I'll help choose new leadership and work toward a better pack. As will I, said the young male she'd protected. One by one, wolves stepped forward, declaring their support. Not all of them, perhaps half, remained uncertain, hesitant. But it was enough. Then it's decided, Helena said with satisfaction. Iron Ridge Pack will undergo reorganization under High Council supervision. A temporary council of pack members will govern until proper leadership can be established. She looked at Alina with something like respect. You've done something remarkable here, child. You've turned potential civil war into peaceful transition. It's not over yet, Alina said. This is just the beginning. There will be other Roderick's, other wolves who resist change. Then we deal with them too, Isabeau said. Together, all of us. The next few hours were a blur of organization. Helena, Isabeau, and Cassia worked with Iron Ridge wolves to establish a temporary governing council. Roderick's closest supporters were given a choice: accept the new order or leave the territory peacefully. Most chose to stay, willing to give change a chance. As the sun began to set, Alina stood on the battlements of the Iron Ridge stronghold, the same battlements where she'd once been condemned to death. Below, wolves moved about peacefully, already beginning to rebuild, to reorganize, to envision a different future. Kael joined her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. How does it feel? He asked. Coming back to the place that tried to destroy you and transforming it instead. Surreal, Alina admitted. A month ago I was nobody, nothing, and now, she gestured at the stronghold, the wolves, the changes already taking shape. Now I'm somehow responsible for reshaping an entire territory. Not just one territory, Kael said. Word of what happened here will spread. Other packs will start questioning their alphas, demanding better treatment. You've started something that can't be stopped, Alina. I hope so, she said. I hope this means something, that these changes last. They will, a new voice said. Elena approached, looking nervous but determined. Because wolves like me will make sure they do. I spent 18 years poisoning you on Roderick's orders, and I'll spend the rest of my life atoning for that. Making sure no healer is ever forced to harm instead of heal. Alina turned to face the woman who'd both helped and hurt her. Why did you come forward? Really? You could have stayed silent, kept your head down. Because I was tired of being afraid, Elena said simply. Tired of obeying orders I knew were wrong. You showed me it was possible to stand up, to speak truth, even when it's dangerous. If you could do it as a powerless Omega, I could do it as a healer with pack protection. She smiled sadly. You were braver than me, Alina. Always were. I'm just finally catching up. Then help me now, Alina said. Help me build something better. Teach other healers to protect their patients, not harm them. Make sure what happened to me never happens to another child. I will, Elena promised. I swear it. Over the next week, the changes continued. Iron Ridge Pack selected a new alpha, a female warrior named Sarah, who'd been one of the first to speak up in Alina's defense. She was young, untested, but she had the support of her pack and a genuine desire to lead differently. The High Council officially recognized her appointment and established new protocols for alpha conduct. Abuse of power would now be investigated. Pack members could appeal to the council if their alpha was cruel. Omegas were granted specific protections under pack law. It wasn't perfect, it was barely a beginning, but it was progress. 2 weeks after the confrontation at Iron Ridge, the High Council called a special session. All 7 members were present: Helena, Isabeau, Cassia, Dimitri, Aldrich, Sarah representing Iron Ridge, and Kael. And standing before them, not as a defendant but as an honored guest, was Alina Crow. The council has deliberated, Helena announced formally, and we have come to a decision regarding the future of Silver Wolf integration into pack society. Alina's heart pounded. This was it, the moment that would determine whether her sacrifice, her suffering, her transformation meant anything lasting. We recognize Alina Crow as the rightful heir to the Silver Wolf bloodline, Helena continued, and we formally apologize on behalf of all wolfkind for the genocide perpetrated against her people 300 years ago. A murmur ran through the assembled crowd. This was unprecedented. The High Council never apologized for anything. Furthermore, Isabeau added, we are establishing the Silver Peaks territory as a sovereign region under Alina's direct authority.
She will have a permanent seat on this council, representing both her bloodline and any wolves who choose to join her territory. Alina's eyes widened. They were giving her not just recognition, but actual political power. A territory. A council seat. "We don't make this offer lightly," Cassia said. "But we believe the wolf world needs what you represent, Alina. A voice for change. A reminder that power without mercy is tyranny, a symbol that even the broken can be made whole." "What say you?" Helena asked. "Will you accept this position? Join us in reshaping wolf society for the better?" Alina looked at Kael, who nodded encouragingly, then at the council members, seeing genuine respect in their eyes, even Dimitri's, grudging though it was. "I accept," she said, "on one condition. That we establish protections for all wolves, regardless of strength or bloodline. That we create systems to prevent another Roderick from rising. That we commit, truly commit, to building a world where no child has to suffer what I suffered." "Agreed," Helena said without hesitation. "Let it be recorded. The High Council commits to comprehensive reform of pack law, with Alina Crow leading the initiative." They spent the next month drafting new laws, establishing oversight mechanisms, creating appeal processes. It was tedious, exhausting work, but Alina threw herself into it with fierce determination. She also began the work of establishing her own territory at the Silver Peaks. Wolves came from all over, outcasts, omegas, those who'd been mistreated by their packs. They came seeking sanctuary, seeking a place where they'd be valued regardless of their strength. Alina welcomed them all. 6 months after her exile, Alina stood once again on the plateau where she'd first shifted, looking out over the growing settlement below. The Silver Peaks territory now housed over 100 wolves, with more arriving every week. They'd built homes, established hunting grounds, created a community based on cooperation rather than domination. It wasn't perfect. There were arguments, conflicts, growing pains, but it was theirs, and it was growing. Kael came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist and resting his chin on her shoulder. "Having second thoughts?" he asked. "Never," Alina said. "This is what I was meant to do. Not rule through fear or power, but build something new, something better." "You know they're calling you the Silver Queen," Kael said. "All across the territories. The Omega, who became a legend." "I'm not a queen," Alina protested. "I'm just a silver wolf who survived the impossible, exposed a conspiracy, prevented a war, and is now reshaping wolf society," Kael interrupted. "If that's not legendary, I don't know what is." Alina turned in his arms to face him. "I couldn't have done any of it without you. You saved me when you didn't have to, believed in me when no one else did, stood beside me when it would have been easier to walk away." "I told you," Kael said, kissing her forehead gently. "I protect what's mine, and you, Alina Crow, are mine, just as I am yours." "Forever?" Alina asked. "Forever," Kael promised. They were married that winter, in a ceremony that brought together wolves from every territory. It was a celebration not just of their union, but of the changes they represented, the old order meeting the new, the past making peace with the future. As Alina stood before the assembled crowd, wearing a gown of silver that caught the moonlight, she thought back to the girl who'd knelt in the snow 3 months ago. The powerless Omega who'd smiled at her executioners because she had nothing left to fear. That girl was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, fiercer, but also kinder than she'd been allowed to be when survival meant making herself small. "I declare you mates before Pack and Moon," Helena announced, her voice carrying across the celebration. "Kael Draven, Wolf King of the Western Territories, and Alina Crow, Silver Queen of the Northern Peaks. Let none challenge what fate has joined." The crowd erupted in cheers, and this time there was no mockery, no contempt, only genuine celebration. As Kael kissed her, Alina felt the mate bond settle fully into place, complete, unbreakable. Two souls finding each other despite impossible odds. When they broke apart, Alina looked out at the assembled wolves and saw her future. Saw the work still to be done, the battles still to fight, the changes still to make. But she also saw hope. Real, tangible hope that the world could be better. That strength could be used to protect instead of dominate. That power could be wielded with mercy. 3 years later, Alina stood in the High Council chamber, now as an equal member rather than a defendant. They were voting on her latest proposal, mandatory protections for Omega wolves across all territories. All in favor? Helena asked. 6 hands went up, only 1 abstention. Motion passed, Helena said with satisfaction. Let it be recorded. Alina smiled. It had taken 3 years, dozens of proposals, countless arguments and compromises. But slowly, steadily, they were changing things. After the session, as Alina walked through the Citadel corridors, a young girl approached her nervously. She couldn't have been more than 12, small and slight, with the hunched posture of someone used to making themselves invisible. "Excuse me, Queen Alina?" the girl said quietly. "Just Alina," Alina corrected gently, kneeling so they were eye level. "What's your name?" "Mira," the girl whispered. "I'm from the Eastern Steppes. I'm an Omega, and my pack, they're not kind. They say I'm worthless because I can't fight." Alina's heart clenched. She saw herself in this girl, the fear, the resignation, the desperate hope that maybe things could be different. "You're not worthless," Alina said firmly. "You're valuable, Mira. Not because of how strong you are or whether you can fight, but because you exist. Because you're a wolf who deserves protection and dignity and a chance to become whoever you want to be." "Really?" Mira's eyes filled with tears. "Really," Alina promised. "And if your pack can't see that, then come to the Silver Peaks. We'll welcome you, keep you safe, give you a home where you're valued for who you are, not what you can do." "Thank you," Mira breathed. "Thank you so much." As the girl ran off, hope replacing fear in her expression, Kyle appeared beside Alina. "You know she'll take you up on that offer," he said. "I hope she does," Alina said. "I hope every mistreated Omega, every abused wolf, everyone who's been told they're worthless comes to the Silver Peaks. We'll build a community so strong, so vibrant, that other packs will have to change just to compete." "You're planning a revolution," Kale observed with amusement. "I'm planning a better world," Alina corrected. "One wolf at a time, one pack at a time, one law at a time, however long it takes." "That's my Silver Queen," Kyle said, pulling her close. "Stubborn to the end." "You wouldn't have me any other way," Alina said. "No," Kale agreed. "I wouldn't." They stood there in the Citadel corridors, 2 mates who'd found each other in the most unlikely circumstances and planned the future they were building together. Years passed. The Silver Peaks territory grew into a thriving community of over 1,000 wolves. Other territories began adopting Alina's reforms, seeing the strength that came from treating all pack members with dignity. The culture was changing, slowly but surely. On the 10th anniversary of Alina's exile, the High Council held a special ceremony. Wolves gathered from every territory to commemorate the day that had changed everything. Alina stood before them, no longer the frightened girl who'd been thrown into a ravine. She was a queen now, in truth, respected and feared and loved in equal measure. The Silver Peaks had become a model for other territories, proof that a different kind of leadership was possible. 10 years ago, Alina said to the assembled crowd, I was condemned to die because I was different, because I was weak, because I represented a threat to the established order. My own pack threw me away like garbage, certain I was worthless. She paused, letting the words sink in. But I survived. And in surviving, I discovered something the old alphas had forgotten. That true strength isn't about domination or cruelty. It's about choosing mercy when you have the power to destroy. It's about using your strength to lift others up instead of crushing them down. It's about building something better, even when the old way is easier. She looked out at the crowd, seeing faces she knew, wolves she'd saved, wolves she'd fought beside, wolves she'd convinced to change. The silver wolves were hunted to extinction because we represented a challenge to pack hierarchy, Alina continued, because we couldn't be controlled through traditional dominance, but we were never the threat they claimed. We were just different. And difference, when you're in power, always feels like danger. She walked forward, silver eyes gleaming. So I'm standing here today to tell you that different is not dangerous. Different is necessary. Change is necessary. Growth is necessary. And anyone who tells you otherwise is just afraid of losing their power. The crowd erupted in cheers. The old order is dead, Alina declared. What we build in its place is up to all of us. Every wolf, regardless of rank or strength or bloodline. We all have a voice. We all have value. We all deserve a chance to become more than what we were born to be. She raised her hand and silence fell. I was thrown into a ravine and left to die, but I climbed out. I survived. I transformed, and now I stand before you not as a victim, but as proof that no one is worthless. That even the most broken can be made whole. That even the weakest can become strong. That even the condemned can become legendary. The cheers were deafening now, echoing off the mountains surrounding the silver peaks. Kale joined her, taking her hand. Together they stood before their people, not subjects, but partners in building a better world. Thank you, Alina said quietly to him, for everything, for saving me, for believing in me, for standing beside me through all of this. Always, Kale promised. Until the end of time, my Silver Queen. Always. As the sun set over the silver peaks, casting the settlement in warm golden light, Alina looked at everything she'd built. The homes filled with wolves who'd found sanctuary, the children playing without fear, the elders resting peacefully, the warriors training not to dominate but to protect. This was her legacy. Not the power she'd claimed or the battles she'd won, but the community she'd created, the lives she'd changed, the hope she'd given to those who'd lost it. She was no longer the powerless Omega thrown into the ravine. She was Alina Crow, the Silver Queen, the one who'd survived the impossible, changed the unchangeable, and proved that even in the darkest moment, even when all seemed lost, there was always hope, always a chance to transform, always a path forward for those brave enough to take it. And as she stood there, hand in hand with the man who'd saved her life and helped her save herself, Alina knew that all of this, was just the beginning. The Silver Wolves had returned, and they were here to stay.